Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the 24-25 season review pod of the FPL Wire. I'm your host, Zofa, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Late Riser and Plus. I'm sorry, guys, I'm just going to have to take this call. I'm someone I haven't heard from in very long. You might not recognize it.
What a start.
This hits like crack. Oh.
I can't believe you said that.
When FPL review is off, okay? Don't bring this Champions League bullshit here.
And you're welcome. I'll just say that.
Yes, then you thank us.
You would have done it anyway.
And the ref who
I was waiting to play this for the past 3 days.
Because I realized I saw Zoff mention on the Discord also, right? Like people are like, aren't you going to talk about United? Aren't you going to talk about United? And on Thursday, Friday, Zoff was on the Discord. I was like, I'm going to stay shut till Sunday. Post Sunday, if I have to open my mouth, I will. So this is what was going in his head all the time. But hey, on the pod, we pretend to be Chelsea fans, right? So we're all happy.
Absolutely, I was going to ask you. You must be delighted.
Yeah.
Honest dad. How's it been, boys? Long time missed podding with you guys last week.
It's been a minute. Season ended. Congratulations, firstly, to Prus for a fabulous season. Finished at 4K. 4184, I believe, was the rank. Prus.
Yeah.
Amazing season. I saw Flapjack tweet to you saying that it felt like you had the 10K in the bag all season, very comfortably. Playing really good FPL, so congratulations, man.
Thank you. I mean, it was, we'll talk about the season and how it went in general, not particular to my team, but it felt like all the variance that was going to variance happened between Game Week 1 and 26. So I was at the right end of a lot of it. And then after 26, it was more a case of, can I do anything more? And then the whole shit show of Game Week 38 meant that it was just, it was a good season, a very good season, but it could have been more. You are left with that feeling.
Yeah. You had one of the 5 ingredients that would have led to like a solid finish, right? I saw Andy have a great end to the season. He was actually with similar to us at the time Game Week 29-30 happened, around 700-800K. And
you mean Andy Martin?
Not Andy Martin.
Which Andy?
Let's talk Andy.
No, let's talk Andy.
They're like tens of Andys, man. You need to clarify which Andy.
I absolute brain fart forgot his last name.
Okay, FPL mode.
FPL mode, yeah, FPL mode.
Yeah.
And like if you had 2 or 3 of Eze, Bowen, Konsa towards the end of the season, it meant like a really, really strong end to the season as well. So that's that. But you had Konsa at least. It could have been a lot worse. You always have to tell yourself that. So
yeah, absolutely. No, very thankful for it. And ultimately, we'll talk about the season review and stuff. But it was a very, very good season. Very positive variant season for me, and a lot of good things went my way. Like a bit like when we were sitting here a year ago and Zoff was talking about his fantastic season, and it was a lot of similar things happened. Like you need to have some major things go your way. Minor things will always be 50-50s.
What do you, Zoff? How do you feel about the season that just went from an FPL point of view?
This is the first time in my 15 years of playing I'm glad the season is over. I guess that says a lot.
But like just generally from an FPL point of view, your playstyle, etc. I mean, we had when you sent your message on Thursday, Friday, what we were talking about in terms of potential moves that you were planning on doing and what you eventually did, like that defined your playstyle and a major
it's a microcosm of, and once we get to like a season analysis, we'll talk about that. But that was pretty much a microcosm of what I've done wrong this season.
Yeah. Why don't you just tell our listeners what happened right at the top? Because it's very relevant to this week as well, and just gives a broader picture about.
So Saturday, I did the Q&A articles, and obviously the number one question was, who should I get? Should I get Saka or Bowen? And I was very clear in my article that I think Saka basically has nothing to play for. Arteta might look to protect him. Arsenal, as much as he talks about Arsenal wanting to get a result, etc., they don't really give a shit. Ultimately, his minutes are at risk. You never know. He could start, not be on the squad, anything, just buy Bowen. And what did I do? I bought Saka. Why? Because I'm chasing, naturally. And this has happened the whole season. I won't buy Cunha. Why? I'm chasing. I won't buy XY because I'm chasing. And this pretty much because of the bad start, this was pretty much what happened from game week 7 to 8. And it was a cascading effect. And ultimately you start getting deeper in the rabbit hole and then you're like, oh, I need to do even more risks. Go even more different to get up. So you just end up digging deeper and deeper. And that was my biggest takeaway from this season, man. Just play your natural style. Play what you know.
Exactly. And it comes naturally to you to just do what you know. Like every time you've spoken about these 50-50s, the other thing won. And I mean, for you, I thought that was great. I think, if at all ever there is a bad start in future FPL seasons, I think you know how to handle that way better after the end of the season now.
Definitely.
And look, we're going to freestyle a little bit. So I also want to say this is now with the 5 free transfers, like the start. And we were saying this before the season started. The start is just so much more important. Like people are with good starts are sitting on 4 free transfers. You are still chasing the players that they already have. Like the advantage is massive. So a little bit of early season luck is like now almost essential.
And it was a different start to the season also with the summer tournaments also. That made things very unpredictable. I went back and looked at my game week 1 team. There was good picks there. There was Gordon, etc., who actually went on to do well later on. Munoz, who he was so keen on. Terrible for the first 7 to 8 weeks, but look at him towards the end. So that's something else to keep in mind, right? A lot of this, what we talk about this season, see, ultimately for this pod, right, and for you guys who are listening, it's not going to be the usual season review you see everywhere else. We're going to spend hours talking about why we achieved X rank because of X, Y, or Z. The purpose of this pod is, yes, we look back a little, but ultimately we want to be better FPL managers for next year. So when you watch this pod before game week 1 next season, hopefully you can catch some things, some takeaways, which makes you a better FPL manager in the long run. And I think the thing we can take some of it from this season, but not all of it, because I think A, it's been a very high variance season, and B, the start was just a bit of an anomaly.
Yeah. I also think what happens is, like, it's too fresh already to reflect upon the mistakes you make. But I'm hoping that the conversation that we guys have with the freestyle chat that we have planned helps us reflect through the summer. And then I want to have a look at this pod again before we start podding. Not even before Game Week 1, before we start doing the content for next season. And, see where our head is. See, it might lead to some homework that I might want to do during the off-season after having the chat with you guys. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. We've got a nice little agenda. And it's not like what we're trying to do. We're not being very indulgent with our seasons and our mistakes, and you won't see a lot of charts in there. This is a freestyle pod where we've noted down some pointers, some trends that need to be discussed, some teams that need to be discussed, and some thoughts that we want to keep in mind for next season.
Yep. And some fun. We've
And
got
some
a
fun.
team of the year. We've got some
high.
price predictions. We've got some recommendations for FPL for next season in terms of rules. So there's a lot here. So hopefully it's going to be long lasting. If you don't finish it in 1 listen, do it in 2-3 listens. You have time now.
Absolutely. Let's do our sponsor thanks and sponsor plugs, guys. First up, Fantasy Scout.
As always, a big thank you to Fantasy Football Scout for supporting us throughout the season. I love the fact that all 3 of us are pretty devoted users of this website, and it's where we actually got to know each other and met each other as well. And they've been supporting us ever since the commencement of our content creation journey as well. So thank you to Chris, thank you to Neil, thank you to Tom, and we appreciate the support that you guys give, and we hope it's a long-lasting partnership.
Similarly, for Nord, we thank them for all the support they've given us this season, and as you guys know, they've been our long-term partner. If you're bored of the streaming libraries in your country, with NordVPN, you can access content outside your region, get access to a wider library on your favorite streaming services, and if you're traveling outside your country, you can access your home library content. Every purchase of the 2-year NordVPN plan using the link nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire will receive an additional 4 bonus months on top. TV show recommendations, guys?
I was out of shows because I was watching Only Friends and Neighbors and Mobland, and they're both weekly watches, so I was up to it. I just started Landman yesterday. Heard good things about it because the summer's here and you want to start some shows. Billy Bob Thornton.
Billy Bob's great, man, on that show.
Yeah, yes. So I've just started the show. Been impressed with episode 1. Looking forward to the rest of it.
What about you, Pras?
Man, I have started this show that LR you sent us on Instagram, The Devil's Plan. You know this? You remember
the
this?
Korean game show.
Yes, of course.
Man, it's like a mind, whatever I can't say. It is basically traitors. If every single traitors participant was a nuclear physicist or a NASA scientist, basically. They're all the smartest of smart people, and the tasks are very hard. Like, it's so hard that it's hard to actually keep up. So Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I don't know. But I'm enjoying the strategy. I'm enjoying the sort of gameplay between the people. Like here, there's no rules, right? In the middle of the game, suddenly you'll realize that these two people who were opponents were actually working together to screw the others. So it's that kind of a in-depth strategy. And not for everybody. I have to say, I'm on episode 4, and there have been moments in the first 3 episodes where I'm like, dude, this is too complicated. So if it's complicated and I'm finding it complicated, maybe others will also not enjoy it as much. But it's a very interesting one. I'm going to watch. It's going to be 12 episodes. It's a new show that I wanted to recommend here.
That's a summer podcast idea for you, Plus. After every 2 or 3 episodes of that show, you can do a podcast where you're very good at breaking down very complex things anyway. So, this will help our listeners. Actually, doing Nod plugs has been a lot of fun this season because we hear the comments as well, right? And people are actually discussing the shows that we talk about. We get DM'd about them. On Twitter, people talk about it. So I love that this little organic integration that we've done with Nod.
I can plug Andor again. I finished season 2 now. Season 2 is even better than season 1. Just very, very good. Then the other show I started was Daredevil, Born Again. 2 episodes into that. Again, very gritty. Very much of a departure from the Marvel Universe. Both good shows. Getting back to Nod. Nod also has an efficient anti-malware, anti-spyware protection tool. It highlights any attack and deletes it before it makes a mess of your computer. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Sign up using the link in the description below. Right, guys? First up, let's do a bit of housekeeping. Let's congratulate all the winners in our various leagues of the FPL Wire. First up, the FPL Wire main Discord league. The winner is Marvin Andre with the team Shivami Timber. Second place, we have Mikey Wong. And third place, Johnny Weller. In the FPL Wire Discord Cup, Everyday Malasia, he beat Hardly Athletic with just 1 point in the final. In our main FPL Wire League, Roy of the Rovers, Ian Roylance was the winner. Udit Varma, who was actually the India #1. I think he's in the chat with us also. Congratulations on that, Udit. And FC Goa was Nico. The FPL Wire Cup was quite interesting. I'll just enlarge it so you guys can read what happened over here. It was actually decided by a coin toss. In the end, they had the same amount of goals scored, goals conceded.
Incredible.
Decided by coin toss. Kumar Rana, -4, here we go. He was the winner. In the Discord head-to-head, Bruno Dostres, Andy McAllister, the most cheerful and absolutely delightful guy on our Discord. Always in a good mood, our Andy, also known as Maka. He was the winner. And the second was Saurav Datta. He was tied for second with Saka, KL. FPL Wire Discord UCL. This was a game, right, that we were running for our Discord, guys. The winner was...
Yeah, it has a whole league phase. You guys were out in the league phase.
Exactly. So
I got out, I think. What a fantasy.
FPL Wire Discord. Old Cowards Die Hard, Yash Verma, and the runner-up was It's Showtime's folks from Stelios Boutos. Probably butchered that name. And the FPL Wire Discord Last Man Standing winner was Srini United. That's Srinivasan Duraiswamy. Congratulations to all the winners. We're just figuring out the prizes now, and we will get in touch with you guys very soon.
I mean, just to say...
By the way,
yeah, go on.
I know that we have a chat and circle where we are doing a lot of fitness motivation throughout the season. You have to check out the fitness chat on our Discord, and I think it's going to gear up and take a lot of precedent in the off season because there's a couple of posters on there that are tremendous. Maka's one of them actually. He's acting like a big brother to Karan as well, setting up his fitness schedules, his routines, managing his macros, etc. So check that channel out on our Discord.
I mean, basically what I do is because of the volume of messages, basically there's certain chats which I put notifications on and some I don't put notifications. So now it's going to switch completely. The fitness, the food, the movies, all of those channels will have notifications on. So.
And Michael made a good suggestion. He asked us to set up a holidays channel where people can ask recommendations about where to go on holiday, hotels, etc., etc. I really like that. I'm going to set that up right after we finish today.
Lovely.
Excellent. And I just want to close this segment out by saying there's also a question in the chat. This is basically what we try to do. We try to make it into a community. If you want to join us, you have to basically be a member on YouTube or join us on Patreon, on patreon.com/the FPL Wire. Of course, if you're new, wait a month or two and then join when the preseason content starts. Or if you want to get involved in the fitness stuff and other stuff, then do it now.
Great, guys. Let's talk some FPL now. Let's go first.
Okay, all right.
Go ahead.
The first thing is some macro sort of trends that we've observed that I think we should just discuss. And one thing which was quite significant this season was form real? Because we saw it, and how do you define that? When do you decide to jump onto that? When do you decide to get off that? Because we saw that in a lot of cases, right? Whether you're talking about Cunha, whether you're talking about Word, whether you're talking about Mo, in the last 8 weeks he did nothing except for returning in 1 or 2 weeks. You're talking about Haaland, where they're talking about Crystal Palace, who didn't show up in the first 7-8 weeks of the season. Is this the fact that when players are hot, you get them because they are in form, and has the season substantiated the theory of form a little more, or is variance? Because one season itself is also a small data point, right? It's just 38 game weeks. So is it specific to this season, or is form a thing? What do you guys think?
Russ, you go first.
I mean, let's take an example. Let's say Chris Wood. Okay. So Chris Wood from game week 1 to game week 26 was messy, right? Every shot was going in. We were sitting on this podcast saying, come on, he can't keep it up. He can't keep doing this. One shot, one goal, one shot, one goal. Game week 26 onwards, 2 goals in 12 game weeks. So the issue that I have is there's no doubt that form exists, confidence exists. Players say it, right? At the end of the when they're going through this patch, they have the post-game interview. What do they say? I have confidence. If I have to take a shot, I take it on. I can shoot from outside of the box, and things are going in. So there is an element of, obviously, you get lucky, your confidence increases, you shoot more, and there is no analytical way to describe it because you cannot say how much form you're in. And more importantly, you can't say when the form finishes. So my example is, let's say you were a Chris Wood believer or a Nottingham Forest believer. Suddenly it just stopped after game week 26. The form completely dipped. Suddenly, Sells wasn't as good as what people thought. Chris Wood wasn't as good as people thought. So that's one side to it. Then there's a Salah side to it. Salah, can you say he was in form, or it was just one of those years where everything that he was touching was turning into gold? But then what happened after game week 31? Was it just motivation? Was it just a drop of form? Like, these are things which make me question on predictability of form. Like, if a guy has scored a hat-trick in 2 games in a row, does that mean he's more likely to score in the next game or not? I don't know. That's where I'm a little bit confused with form. Like if you had underlying data for months and months, and then you start doing stuff, I jump on immediately. But if it's based on not much, then I question it.
How do you define form, Pras? What is form?
Form is basically having, what we call purple patch or something, where you're having a sequence of returns together. So basically, game after game, you're returning, or let's say in 10 games, you've returned 8 times, 9 times. You're basically showing the ability to score consistently over a long period of time. But that long could be 3 games, could be 10 games. We don't know.
So I did an article on this a few years ago, and I defined form after a lot of reading as an increased state of confidence. It's a guy still doing the same things, not like his ability level has increased, but in elite sports, the mental aspect is so much of it, right? Even when you can get 1% or 2% of a mental edge, that level of confidence, that's what I view as form. Ultimately, what you are seeing is more of an outcome of that increased level of confidence, is right, when you have those purple patches. But what I noticed more so this season, more so than any other, is the variance. Look at the XG numbers that these guys have performed. Wood outperformed XG significantly. Cunha outperformed significantly. Palmer, when he was hot, he was doing that as well. Ultimately, he regressed back. Salah was doing it also up to game week 30. Then we saw some regression happen towards the end. So to that extent, I would say now there is some form aspect to it, because those guys obviously were in a spell of confidence at that time. And I think we have to recognize it in the sense that once we see certain players do well, and there are certain players who are more prone to it, like your Nico Jacksons. We've seen pure confidence players. As soon as he gets a couple of goals, that's when you jump on him. Ella, remember we had this discussion last year as well about Jackson? You don't buy Jackson before he scores. You buy Jackson after he scores.
Yeah. So I want to start quantifying this if possible, and this is gray area, right? There's no black or white here, but it's just I want to set some precedents in my head when we're coming into next season. When do you believe in form when fixtures are good? So that makes itself an easy decision. Let's say Jackson gets 2 goals against tougher opposition. Green set of fixtures are coming, you buy him. But if the fixtures are tough and a player is still on form, do you give precedent to the fixtures or the form? What are your thoughts there?
think this season has made me realize I've always been a fixtures over form, guys, but this season I think it's more gravitated at least the goalpost towards form a little bit more. We've seen fixtures ultimately they do breed form. We see players who have been out of form come back into it, but players like Calvert-Lewin, I remember he played Ipswich and another promoted team, and a bunch of like very easy fixtures. There was a sea of green. He did nothing. So certain players, I don't think we can put it guarantee that like, yes, this guy will do it, this guy won't do it. It's a very much a case by case and subjective basis. And I think when you hear more than stats, I think eye test over here plays a big part in identifying form. And that's what I usually look at, players' body language in terms of how they want the ball, how they ask for the ball, how they're finishing their shots, stuff like that.
But how do you differentiate between a Bowen and a Murphy? Right? So Bowen keeps scoring game after game. People don't get to him. Murphy scores game after game. People had him. Suddenly stopped. Did nothing for weeks. So this is why it's so difficult. And
It is.
I can see in the chat, Aranya has made a point that even in Mbumo, he's got 20 goals, only of 12 XG. Now, in this case, I can make an exception. You know why? Because of form over fixtures. Because of other things. Because FPL is not just a game about Brentford winning the game. It's about Bumo being on set pieces and penalties. So even in the hard game, if he's not your biggest problem, you don't have to shift him. Would you have Bumo away to Arsenal if you're on a free hit? No. But if Bumo has great fixtures, then Arsenal, Liverpool, and then good fixtures, you can also hold him. And I think this season, this is what showed us. So you're not holding Bumo because you believe in his form over fixtures. He was not the biggest problem. And so therefore you thought he's a good bread and butter pick to keep, or fish and chips pick, as we like to call him. As opposed to a Murphy, where while his fixtures were good, he had doubles, great, very nice, and we got some returns. We actually managed to hit that period in which he was in form, and it was okay to also exit him because he's otherwise his form is not predictable.
Let's talk about the game week 9 shift, Preston. I think that was one of the pivotal moments of this season. LR and I held on to Haaland for that time, perhaps for a little too long, and you got rid of him. Go ahead, LR. You want to say something before?
Yeah, just one thing I want to add on the form discussion before we move into the Haaland dovetail is one thing maybe that didn't make us realize the fixture thing this season is if you look at the quality difference. I think after the top 5, from 6th place to 16th place in the league, I don't think there was a huge difference in terms of quality. Like the table, the table itself is also pretty compressed, right? So if you're looking at the bottom 3, there were clear teams to target from a fixture point of view, and the top 5 games were the top 5 games.
In the first half of the season, I guess you could say, Wolves under O'Neill were quite targetable. But apart from that, I see the point you're making. Like your Fulhams, Bournemouths, etc. They weren't really teams you could target. Or, like later on, you had like your Palace, etc. These weren't easy fixtures.
Exactly. So maybe that had something to do with it from a fixtures point of view, because all of them are pretty much at the same level. So that was the one thing. And basis the discussion of form, right? Like, because this is an important case study, because I was like, what can I say to argue against form this season? And Haaland is the prime case where he scored a bucket load of points in the first 5 game weeks. We're talking about 2 hat-tricks, 1 brace, 1 goal, something of that sort. And then it was a series of blanks, like series of blanks. So how do you define that? Rodri got injured in the 2nd or 3rd week. I think that added to that. But what's your takeaway there?
Yep. So getting back, Pras, now over there, I remember when you sold Haaland, it was right after the Southampton game. If I'm not mistaken, you had triple captain in and he was still generating monster XG. So it wasn't like without Rodri, they're doing quite poor. That happened a little bit later in terms of the defensive drop-off. Their XG numbers were still very good for Haaland, and the fixtures also weren't bad, if I recall. He had Bournemouth, Brighton, and a couple of other fixtures which you still could expect certain points, but you sold him for Cunha and moved that to Salah. What did you see over there that made you do it?
Just luck, man. Like, I mean, okay, let me give a better answer. And I want to also answer what LR is saying. I think what happened to Haaland is a complete freak event that nobody saw coming. So people who sold Haaland in game week 9 or 10 did it taking a massive risk that we're going against this guy who's scoring hat-tricks in the first 8 game weeks, 9 game weeks. Okay, after 6, there was a little bit of a drop-off, but look, Haaland pedigree was such that, let's be very clear, we were laughing at people that didn't start with Haaland. We were looking at their teams and saying, you will be punished. When he scored that hat-trick against Ipswich, I remember Ross Raptor, and now he's had a good season, so we can talk about it. He genuinely had to step away from Twitter to say this is affecting me because I've bought out Haaland and it's turning out to be the worst mistake of my life. So we have moved from that to a point where people sold Haaland, and it was not only that they got away with it, they profited 70 points. It's a freak event. Whether we learn from it and do it again next year, and I want to be very careful about it. Haaland could again come back because of many other factors, but nobody saw it coming, not even close. The only reason why people did it was because in game week 11, 12, 13, Salah was the optimal captain. And so people went without Salah on their wildcard and said, do I want the highest scoring captaincy in 11, 12, 13? And the only way to do that is basically to take on Haaland. Who can you afford to downgrade Haaland to? Oh, Cunha has good fixtures. Let's go for Cunha. Cunha scores 16, 16, 12, 8. Haaland gets 2, 2, 2, 2. So the move not only to captain Salah paid off, even the Haaland downgrade has outscored Haaland by about 30 points. This is unprecedented.
It was also cartel driven to an extent, right, Russ? A lot of people who made the move, I know, were driven by
it
that.
was a very much a analytics move, because again, I go back to captaincy. We'll talk about learnings for next year. I think at this stage where we are, everybody is using some sort of analytics. Now everyone, not even the people who don't touch.
No, and not even using it. So like let's call it out as is, right? Like there's some popular content creators who use it. So by virtue of even them not being aware of FPL review, there's a lot of content creators who use review. So they're definitely getting influenced by it.
The
But
cascading
I would go
effects,
beyond that.
literally.
I would say
Yeah.
even us, we are showing drop T market data. That is
Correct.
analytics. When we say at
Yeah.
the end of every team selection video, Salah is number 1 in terms of market odds, that is analytics. You're just basically, there's two ways you can look at analytics and projected points. You can do it through massive data, which is somebody has built a model in which they've said, this is my view of team strength, this is my view of player strength, goal share. They've built the model. That is what FPL review is. You can also do market odds, and you can say what Rob T has provided me is basically it is expected that Man City will score 3 goals in this game. Haaland's goal share is 50%. So Haaland's XG expected goals is 1.5. Simple. 1.5 means 4 points for a goal. 1.5 is so 6 points is expected from Haaland from just goals, 2 for appearance, 3 for bonus. 9 is his expected points. He's the best captain. You're using analytical models, and absolutely Salah was so clear in game week 11, 12, 13 that it was a no-brainer move. But people didn't do it knowing that Haaland would not do anything. They did it because they wanted Salah.
Yeah. Question before we end this discussion. Or should we can leave it for the team chat, but has this season changed your perception of Haaland going into next year? Because you mentioned, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, where you will not see him as a perma play. You will look at fixtures, etc. Has the season changed your perception of Haaland going into next season?
I think so. Now it does become very much price and fixture dependent, because I think Marmoush is a very different player we have now compared to Alvarez. I don't think Alvarez was ever an option when we had Haaland around, but I think Marmoush can get within, let's say, I would say 80 to 70% of what Haaland gets, I think, at maybe like 70% of the price. So we have a real alternative there in attack. You can't really go for the joke bros in like Doku, Savinho. The only real attacker options you're going to get from City are either Marmoush or Haaland. And I really rate Marmoush. I think he's going to get consistent minutes. He has explosive potential, set pieces, etc. So we have an alternative there. At Liverpool, are we going to have any alternatives? This whole Diaz, Gakpo thing, rotation might continue. We're talking about Wirtz who might come into the equation now as well. So I think we'll have to. I don't think so. He's going to be the same perma cap option.
Russ?
I think it's still a fixtures play. If there's a period where Man City has 3 good fixtures, Haaland is the best captain, we will be there. I don't think my perception on Haaland has changed as much. Maybe it's a trap. If it happens over 2 seasons, then we have missed something. But right now, you expect Man City, let's say we are painting a picture. Next season, who's your favorites to win the league?
City.
It would be City or Liverpool.
Or
So-
Arsenal. All 3 are in there. It depends on what happens.
What I mean is, you cannot stand here and say that City is going to come 3rd next season. Nobody can. You don't know what kind of a season, man. And if City are in and amongst the Premier League title again, as what people expect, then Haaland should be in and amongst the Golden Boot again.
No, but I think what Elad was saying, like last year, I think we had pretty much decided that irrespective of what the fixture was, Haaland was going to be in our game week 1 scores. And I think that goalpost has shifted a little bit.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I do want to take into consideration though that I don't expect City to be this weak ever again.
Absolutely.
Like they will be way stronger. Rodri, if Rodri comes as 90 or 80% of the Rodri as we know him, it's a big boost to that team. They're in the market for a defensive midfielder in addition to Partey, Rodri. They're looking. Interesting thing about Marmoush is they're actually looking at Morgan Gibbs-White or Chetri. They're looking at a number 10. So it's interesting that how will Marmoush and a number 10 sort of fit in together. But with Pep, I think you need to wipe the slate clean, because every year he comes into the season with a new tactic so that people forget how he's planning to play. So we'll see what happens there. I just wanted to know your early thing. Should we move to the next point of discussion?
Yes.
All right. Now, one thing I think that screwed us at the start of the season, again, Zoff, was we didn't read too much into the impact of losing big players from their teams or massive player injuries. Now, we saw that in quite a few cases, right? Like City without Rodri, they took time to adapt. Crystal Palace without Olise, that Munoz-Sarr partnership took a while to get going. We jumped on Munoz early, but they took a while to get going. There was a lot of new players in the team. Extra. In fact, shout out to Baker. He warned us that there's a lot of new players in this team. Are you sure you want to go this heavy on Crystal Palace? This might happen to teams like Brentford, where teams like Newcastle are hovering around the likes of Boomo. Do you account for this in general in terms of marquee players? Look at Jackson, right? Once Jackson got injured for a long period, Chelsea, who were in Jan one of the hottest investments in FPL, doing well, Jackson, Palmer all scoring points, suddenly system changed and they got progressively worse towards the end of the season. Do you pay attention to this?
I think we should. I think, like you mentioned, Palace might lose Eze. That's something else that might happen. You might don't know. You guys might lose Bruno. You never know. Things like that. We have to take more context, and I think that definitely is a learning I want to take into next year.
Like, more stability in a team makes them more investable. Even if, let's say, 2 or 3 new players come, which are like shiny toys, avoid them. Go with what you know at the start of the season.
I think that's a fair point. I mean, ultimately, look, you guys are also unlucky with Munoz, right? Munoz is by far the best defender in this game if you take out Trent. Like, people went with Porro and still outscored Munoz. Like, I don't think that was a fair outcome in terms of the decision, that you lost points. But if you want to put it down to Olise, Eze took some time to get going as well. I get it. There is some point there. But the Rodri Haaland thing, again, I have to go back to it. We cannot see it coming. The kind of impact that Rodri had, he's a great player, man. But how can you say that Haaland will just start missing chances? Like Gameweek 9, guy, go back to my triple captaincy. You cannot have 2.3 XG and just, or was it 3 XG or something, and just score 1 goal. That's not because of Rodri. That's just what it is. And then, of course, it led to a domino effect of Man City doing worse and worse and worse. And, defensively, they were not there. It only happened in the last third of the season where Man City said, you know what, let's just first address the defense. Nico Gonzalez was very important with that. I think playing, instead of Rico Lewis, basically changing it up and playing Nunes there on the right changed a lot. So there were things Pep fixed. And this is why I feel Pep will fix it again.
Yep, I think, let's just go with stability. And I think, again, the fact that this year they'll have a full preseason, right? I know we have the Club World Cup, which a lot of teams will be occupied for a month. But the fact that every team is going to have a preseason will also make a huge difference. Watkins came in without playing a single minute of preseason. Munoz just was playing in the Copa America till much later. So that's another factor. A lot of key players, even though they came back, Gordon also very limited preseason. So all these guys, even though they were key players, they weren't sharp. So that factor, again, doesn't really have an apple-to-apple thing.
Yeah, good point. This season we'll have people will have a good break, except for your team Chelsea and Man City, right? This month-long Club World Cup, I don't know how this is going to affect it, because it's basically like you're still playing the season until mid-July. And then when will your holidays be and when will your preseason start? I don't know. Like it may have impact on minutes early season.
Yep, and for you guys wondering, we will not be doing any Club World Cup content. I can't be asked to find out who's taking corners for Flamingo or Al-Ahly. Oh, that's not how I want to spend my summer.
Yes, agreed.
Let's move to the next point, LR.
Yeah. So now one thing is Trent is not going to be in the league anymore. And I think this has got a wide variety of rollover effects, because we don't have a 7 million defender, which means we don't know the pricing yet, but you're going to generally have more money to spend in attack than you did previously, or you can get a higher quantum of 6 million defenders if you want to. Now, one thing I was looking at the FPL points table, And I noticed that on the first page, we've got 30 to 35 defenders, and they're all between 100 to 150 points. So some defenders are 4.5 million, and some defenders are 6 million. There's nobody cross the 150 point barrier. What do you make of this? And next year, are you going to go into Game Week 1 finding the forest of the season or finding the Munoz of the season? Any takeaways on this, and any price structure ideas initially that you have based on the fact that we might not have an uber premium defender?
So I think what I did in Game Week 1 last year, I tried to spend a bit less. I think what I had Munoz, I had Robinson. The only one premium defender went towards the Trent. And the idea was we knew that they'll get less bonus this year, right? Because of the change, every goal conceded -4 BPS, and that was the thinking over there. But we saw the guys from last year, from the big teams who have the attacking potential, deliver. Porto went big the first few weeks. Gabriel went big in the first few weeks. So what I'm thinking now next season, how I will set up, and this is how I traditionally go, is go with the big five. Go with the big five or the big six teams initially, at least early on, till you can identify who the forest of the season is. And then you jump on. Go with the guys who you know. Go with your Gabriels. Go with the guys who you know that, like Munoz, for example. He has good attacking potential in a good defense, and then try to identify the cheapie.
Russ?
Yep. So I think there's a couple of things here for defenders that I want to discuss. One is the fact that they were killed this year. Like 150 for a defender is poor, man. Like as you said, only Guardiola hitting 150, that too in the last game.
And
So-
Guardiola had a poor season from
Yeah.
an attacking point of view. He was centre back for most of the season.
Exactly.
He didn't post
Not a
attacking
single
returns. He
assist.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, of course, had Trent played all those games that he has missed now at the back end, maybe he would have hit closer to 180 whatever, because he was sitting on 147 for a very long time. So maybe there is something in that. But what I would say for defenders is, number one, maybe they fix the bonus system, or maybe something else is added. You know, like in Euros, there was this ball recoveries or whatever. So first thing is, I am open right now because things could change, because they have nerfed the defenders too much. You know, if this was a game, you would basically
Nobody
expect
got
a
over
buff.
20 bonus points
Yeah.
amongst defenders.
Either they change the BPS system or they change how they score. So I'm a little bit open to it, so I'm not committing to where I go. I think the second thing which I want to share as something that I have learned over the last 2 seasons, and again this is influenced a lot by analytics, is rotation of defenders. Like I feel in defense, if you pick a good rotation, then we don't have to. Sometimes you overplay Estupinian away to Liverpool is better than Konza at home to, Fulham. So this is something where I feel normal mindset when I started playing the game for many years was put your money on the 11 and don't worry about the bench. Bench is supposed to be when you get injuries. I think my one big learning of using predicted points and looking at paths is basically to find those defenders that rotate really well. Like Villa and Arsenal rotated so well at various points in the season that at many points I benched, my second Arsenal defender for Konza, and it worked out so many times. And I'm not using Konza as an example because he scored for me. It could be anyone else. Like other people have other boring players. It could be Dunk. Now he didn't work out at all. A lot of people went for Dunk. So I just feel a stable player with good fixtures that rotate with other defenders is more important than actually picking the 3 best defenders that you think, especially if it's not working on a budget. I think that is one learning that I will carry to next season. Does it mean sometimes you get it wrong? Many times. Does it mean you have to get used to bench pain? Yes. When we look at our teams and we look at our season review, I have got 100 more points on the bench than you guys. But that's just, I have gotten used to doing that. And it's just because rotation just generally works over a long period of time.
That ties in very nicely with Zoff. You complained this year about football being boring, right? It's because I think there's been some clean sheets for some teams like Forest, etc., right? And the other thing is, outside of Munoz and maybe Robinson, there haven't been uber attacking defenders this season. In fact, if they've been supremely attacking, they've come from slightly weaker teams. I'm talking about like Ait Nouri, for example, right?
Okay.
So yeah, so maybe it just makes sense to look at that rotation and identify clean sheets at least at the start of the season, because they seem more predictable than attacking returns, because there's just not much attacking defensive talent on offer. You look for the stronger teams then. And last thing, Pickford is inevitable. We knew it at the start of the season. He's the best keeper to get. We baited into doing other creative things.
Sean Dash
Pickford
was
is-
rubbish, man. It
Sean
was
Dyche
only
was rubbish.
after Moyes came, the whole thing
yeah.
changed.
But all
Yeah.
that being said, I'm still wary of Everton because of the new stadium. I want to give that a little bit of time.
All right. Cool. Next talking point. Just general takeaways that you want to take into next season. Macro discussion points. Just general mistakes that you made, things that you want to take into next season. Early stage. I think there'll be a lot more reflection happening in the off season, and we'll come back with more takeaways post pre-game week 1 next year. But just general takeaways. We'll start with you, Pras. What do you want to take into next season after having the good season that you did?
Early season, you don't want to get behind. Like, I think I won't take many risks early season. Now, this is a general takeaway for years of people playing FPL, right? You think of FPL Salah's game week 1 tips. You think of other people, other managers. Doesn't mean safe. And actually, it's quite counterintuitive because I was one of the only people on Twitter going Salah plus Haaland this year. So I understand but I feel like it worked out. So I'm happy to report that it worked out. There could have been a scenario that, the mid-priced mids just went mad and I'm just sitting here with 2 premiums and all the cheapos. Just happened that Smith Rowe, Rogers, everybody's decided to score points. And so basically my 2 premium strategy worked because Salah was going crazy and Haaland was going crazy. But I think next season, in general, I would say my style is always plan a wildcard, go towards that wildcard. Don't try to get too clever and stay in touch. And I feel my strategy next year, to put it bluntly, is like a one-day international, like people who play cricket, right? Like, okay, you can be a little bit aggressive in the beginning, but don't lose wickets. In the middle overs, save transfers. Go up to 5 transfers if you need to. Gather data, understand. And in the end, you can be aggressive or depending on your rank goals. That was basically my thinking in terms of how I'll play it, but not too much to change, right? I mean, things worked out this year.
Goff?
I think I underestimated the whole 5 transfer rule change. And I think I went a bit risky with my game week 1 squad. I don't think I'll be going with your Barco and Kunku and stuff again so much. Don't read so much into preseason is a big takeaway. I have to really go into it. And again, like Pras said, man, I think someone asked me, what is the most important attribute you can say is to be successful as an FPL manager? And I remember saying this very long ago, patience. Patience is very easy to have when you have a good start. So getting the right temperament really makes a difference to how your entire FPL season unrolls, and it goes back to the point I mentioned earlier. Just that way, you can be ahead of the game and just make the obvious moves. You're not chasing, you're not behind the 8 ball the whole time. So just try to go with what you know right at the start. That's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah. I also want to just watch out for teams that have massive changes. Like the Munoz thing, right? Like it stuck with me that any team that has a lot of new players in the team or etc. as well, it takes time for players to develop chemistry and teams to gel. So teams which are a lot more stable, and I'm looking at Arsenal, Liverpool, like go there, go with the tried and tested. Don't try to experiment too much. And one thing is, when it comes to the big players, if you're leading points, and I tend to do that, and I tend to overcompensate by trying the shortcut way. No, stop the bleeding for some time before you start overcompensating. So, if players like Haaland are off form, I'm talking about big players, don't try persisting with getting. If Haaland scores a hat-trick the week you sell him after 5 weeks of blanks, take it on the chin, then buy him again. You can buy him again. We sometimes forget that we can buy players with 1 or 2 transfers. So, don't bleed for too long. I think I bled for too long when it came to persisting with Haaland. And it was a two-edged sword, right, in terms of how I lost points, right? It wasn't just I captained Haaland instead of Salah, and you'll see that in the points where I lost a lot of captaincy points, and Haaland wasn't keeping pace with his cheaper counterparts in Cunha and Wood as well. So, be a little more impatient with your premium assets if they're off form.
And yeah, I won't be playing my triple captaincy early this year. Andy has asked me the question. Yeah, it's true, man. Look, obviously we all. I didn't predict how Premier League would be so proactive in those double announcements in Game Week 24, 25. Like, people were more wrong. Although it turned out okay, actually, 6 points. was not too bad. Like the Mamouche triple captaincy didn't work out. Isak got what, 12?
11.
11. You guys got 5 from
5 from
Watkins.
Watkins. We would have played it on Saka the last game. We could have gotten
Yeah,
1.
so Saka did. So Salah would have been
Let's
10
talk
for
about
those
that
who
for
played
a
it.
second, right? Because ultimately we saw there were fewer doubles. The Liverpool double got added. One was because of the weather, and the other one was later on because of fixture congestion. So as we've seen, even the 37 double didn't happen. We had like effectively, I think, from the scheduled doubles, I think 2 sets. The Liverpool one that happened and the Newcastle one. And then you had the one in 34. That's about it.
Yep. And if one of the, I mean, people can read between the lines, we may have one extra slot for a chip, if there's no an assistant manager. So
I hope not.
we'll have more slots. So triple captaincy will be going on a double game week next year.
I think one learning also in general is don't underestimate how long the season is. Generally, what happens is by the time you are reaching game week 15, game week 20, and if you're still outside 1.5 million, you feel like the season's a write-off. No, even 10 game weeks is a lot of FPL to be played. If you had one Bowen, you could have jumped from 1 million to within the 100K in the second half of the season. I think don't underestimate how long the season is, and
Or Eze versus
constantly
Something very similar.
constantly try to shortcut your way around game week 15-20 if you're trailing behind.
Guys, let's move on to the next section.
Yeah, let's do the player and team thoughts. So now in this section, we're basically going to do a little bit of team by team, but not to go too far back, but actually to now predict the future. So we're basically, let's start from the champions, Liverpool. They hadn't made a single signing under slot last year. But this year they've already been proactive. Florian Wirtz is rumored to be joining. Kirkes is rumored to be joining.
Frimpong has joined.
Frimpong has already been announced. Or actually not officially announced. Apparently Wirtz and Frimpong will be announced together. But here we go has happened. So there are changes there. So what are your views? Liverpool next year.
Listen to Josh. Shout out to Josh, by the way. We got him pre-season pod. And every Liverpool fan I spoke to was extremely downbeat about the season that they were going to have. And Josh was like, this is the change we needed. This is great for the club. This is right for the club. And he was very excited about slot coming. And that was not how any other Liverpool fan I knew was behaving. So A, listen to Josh. And B, go with what's needed. I mean, Salah, his post-match interviews in the end of the season, he's opened up and spoken about how Slot just told him, don't bother defending. I'm going to put my most lethal best player in the likeliest position to score goals. I think that's going to continue next season. Go with the known quantity, start season game week 1 with Mo Salah.
As soon as Bradley, Frimpong, Kirkes or Robertson, one of them is injured by the other one in that position. Because I think they're super attacking, both Kirkes and Frimpong, right? But as things stand, they will share minutes with Bradley and Robertson. So you can't go there until one is injured. But if one is injured, you go there. I think that's one takeaway for Liverpool.
Agreed.
So we won't go too deep into every team, right? Because things change with one signing.
Yeah.
But Wirtz also is, I mean, from a football perspective, that's a bloody good signing, man.
No, Wirtz is like, it's pretty much shaken up all of Madrid, Barcelona, because it's a world-class signing. It's a world-class player that's coming to the Premier League, like your Hazard. And we often talk about wait for these guys who are coming from other leagues. I don't think with these players of this caliber, you need to.
Especially if he plays the 10 position instead of Szoboszlai. I mean, he may play off the left.
Because there's talk of Diaz going to Barca.
Yeah. But if he plays through the middle, I mean, so I don't want to oogle too much on a rivals team, but yeah, it should be good for them.
I mean, kudos to them. Yeah, if they get all three done early season, which is what it looks like, they'll have a full pre-season under their belt with Kirkes, Frimpong and Wirtz. And then you just trust Josh's eyes. That pod is going to be so important. I still haven't asked him if he's going to come, but I'm sure he will. He likes us. But yeah, that's what
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, Arsenal, guys. So let's say Arsenal sign a striker, right? Let's assume they sign a striker. Whether that's Gyökeres, whether that's Šeško. Isak's not going to happen now that he's Newcastle qualified for the Champions League. So let's assume they get a functional striker. Where are you with Arsenal? Is it still a defense first? Get an Arsenal defender and then take it from there?
Fixture dependent, I would say, and also price dependent. If let's say that striker is priced at 8 million and Saka is still your 10.5, 11, I'd save the money and go for the forward.
the Havertz Saka conversation, but actually now a proper striker, not Havertz.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But one thing about Saka is more and more I watch him. He's not done much in the last 2 weeks, but Arteta is very actively playing him closer to goal. Like he's very, very actively telling him come in goal scoring positions. He's not hovering on the byline as much. He's coming closer and closer. He's on the far post every time plays getting done from the left hand side. So like don't ignore Saka at all. I think he's ready. At some point the baton will be passed from Salah, and Palmer and Saka are the two guys that are waiting in prime to take the baton, right? I'm talking about the King's baton in midfield.
Yeah.
These two are prime contenders, and Saka is just showing more consistency. And as things stand, is playing in a better team. So just don't ignore Saka because I think he's as reliable as they come.
I mean, we'll do a player price segment later in terms of player predictions, but I'm very keen for all these guys to be like 10.5 plus. And then you have also Salah at like 13, 14, but I won't give it away yet. But imagine like this year, Nomium was a thing. Like there were some fluttering strategies with basically no Salah, no Haaland. Didn't work out at all because Salah just blew everybody out of the water. But if in another season, basically if you have to go Salah, you can only go one more of Saka, Isak, and Palmer. If you have to go Haaland, again, same thing. You can't go basically Haaland and Salah, then you sacrifice all of them. Or you could just get Saka, Palmer, Isak, Mbumo. You see where I'm going. Like Nomium should be a viable play if people want to go there. Only Salah should be a viable play. Only Haaland should be a viable play. That makes it fun. Obviously more painful, but also fun.
Agree.
All right, man. Big elephant in the room. What the hell do we do with Cole Palmer next season's off?
I think what Maresca did, we saw two halves of Maresca. I think he adapted his strategy a lot for the later part of it. And Palmer, I think he's just not the same weapon he was under Pochettino. It's more of a team-driven, it's more of a system-driven thing now. I don't think I'll be going for Palmer early on because ultimately what we saw first half of the season also, he was massively overperforming rather. His underlying. And you remember around game week 6 when we were having the wildcard discussion, you got him in for his 25-pointer. And I told you even that time that he's just not having the big chances enough for me to invest in. But he was just scoring everything. He was shooting from outside the box. And we saw that regress in the second half of the season where he's still not having those big chances. The chance creation is there. The shots are there, mostly from outside. And he's helping the team function. He's just not doing enough direct things for me as an FPL asset, at least in the second half of the season. Now, this could change depending on the centre forward we sign, how that impacts Palmer, how close Palmer gets to goal. If Enzo gets injured, for example, Palmer gets a bit more dynamic in that sense as well. But early on, obviously fixture dependent, price dependent, I don't think he's in my top 3 premiums.
Russ?
Dude, respect Palmer, man. Like what is like in the chat, Roberto saying 7.5. Like what are you smoking, man? Like he should be as much as Saka, basically.
Yeah,
like we can't predict whether how he will do, but it would be a gross mispricing if he's anything else. But yeah, we will monitor. Like I don't think so. If he has average fixtures, I think it's okay to not go there. But if he has good fixtures, you absolutely have to, or you will see, right? I mean, we've got the Club World Cup. We'll see preseason. But if things don't change, and at Chelsea, like in terms of transfer, where are you guys? Like you're looking for a striker instead of Jackson.
Forward is the first top target.
So you have to see the dynamics there, right? If it's a guy who takes over penalties, then the whole discussion completely changes. So we will see where these things go. Penalties and set pieces is a big part of Palmer's appeal, but even otherwise, man, like I think he's.
Yeah. But like fixtures aside, Pras, like what's changed is because of Maresca. Now Saka is ahead for me than Palmer, given the same price or even a 0.5 price difference. Like that's where I am. Like it was not the case for me. I had Palmer ahead of him because I think he's this godly player, but I just don't like how Maresca uses him. So while Maresca's at the club, Saka's moved ahead in my opinion. Yeah. If things stay the same.
No, you made a great point. I think there is a theory to say that Maresca, when he came to Chelsea, he took over this very super aggressive attacking team, and then over time he's put his own marker on the team, which is basically a defense first, control, good team, but there Palmer isn't the free flowing, great, hat trick 4-goal type of player. So something to monitor. That I'm with you.
All right. Next talking point is the teams that are in Europa. Let's talk about Chelsea, Newcastle.
In general, right? Yeah.
In Europe, sorry. Chelsea, Newcastle, Villa, Forest, Palace, and Spurs. Which teams will you continue investing in? Who might have a deeper squad? And which teams are you going to stay away from? What are your thoughts?
I think we should always keep in mind, I think a lot of times I avoided certain teams last year thinking that Europe would affect them. The Europe effect comes on more so, I would say, after the second international break. During the first half of the season, especially considering you're going to have a full summer off, I don't think fatigue is going to be as much of a factor. Champions League anyway kicks off usually only after the first IB, right? After game week 3 or 4, then I would say only after game week 8, after the second IB is when you have the fatigue factor come into it. So up until then, I'm going to be open to investing in these teams. After that, teams like Palace, Forest in particular, who have these small squads, who rely on playing a consistent settled 11. These are the guys I'm going to worry about. Tottenham obviously is going to be interesting because we saw Ants completely shit on the league in the second half of the season. He can't do that now with the Champions League in the same way. So Spurs are another team I'm going to be a bit wary because of Ange's style. We saw it when they were playing in Europe the year before that. Also, they struggled a little bit whenever they had to play after. So these teams are the ones I'm going to watch out for. But the guys, especially your guys with the big squads, your Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea to an extent, you can say, because Chelsea, the difference was this year we could afford to rotate. We pretty much played the kids in the B team completely in the Conference League. It won't be the case in the Champions League. We have to see how these younger players now cope with that demand of playing 3 games against top opposition within a week. So Chelsea, I'm going to be slightly more wary. But the top 3 guys, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, is not going to affect me at all.
Russ?
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think general feeling is Villa, Forest, Palace, wait. Unless the fixtures are so good that you have to basically go there. And if you have to go there, then find maybe a safer pick. Munoz is an exception. He plays anyway. But, if you're looking at a Villa good fixture run, then maybe Rodgers is an option. You don't have to jump on Watkins. New signings will affect this. But I think my general, I will be wary of these teams. And if I find a team that is not in Europe, that is basically minutes are more secure, Brentford come to mind, Bournemouth come to mind, Brighton come to mind. Those are the ones that I would rather go for. Man United, we will talk about as a separate section, man. It hurts when we discuss it. But speaking of sour grapes, Spurs, I would actively say are going to be an avoid. And I'm going to say this because genuinely, right now it was easy to just park one league and then focus on one competition. In the Champions League, you can't do that because you can't basically say I'm only going for Champions League. You can go put out your full team and still not qualify into the knockout stages. So you have to go for both. And if you're going for both, you could actually be shit in both. So, congratulations Spurs, but I'm not picking up players next season.
Well, that I think what my takeaway is I still don't mind Villa because I think certain managers have the nous to manage European fixture congestions. They're pretty good with that. Somebody like Emery, who's been doing it for years and years, I'm fine with that. But teams that are new to it, because I remember De Zerbi struggling back in the day when there was a fixture congestion in the second half of the season before this one, and that was just because of the congestion. Where he's like, my squad is not used to playing 3 times a week. So teams like Forest, etc., that I have no idea why you're smoking your ways off.
Because you guys did react to the anthem I played for the second time. At least the chat's reacting to it. That's why.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So teams like Forest, etc., that are new to Europe, I will stay away from them. I think teams like Newcastle, etc., the season before this they did it as well. I don't mind teams that have been in Europe before. If not last season before last, I feel like there's something to experience. If teams are new, I might stay away from them.
For sure.
Man United, I genuinely think there is a case that Man United picks might be underpriced. Because they will look at league position and they will go, yeah, the defenders can be 4.5 million, the midfielders can be 6 to 7 million. And are we being foolish Man United fans? Probably. But what I'm trying to say is, without Europe, with a thin squad, there could be a potential there. And honestly, if it was not Man United, I would be saying the same thing. The team does have potential with a few signings that we get a few budget gems. Now, I did not think I would live ever to be in a position on a podcast to say Man United will have budget gems or enablers, but we could be in a situation where that could be the case. Cunha is rumored to be going. If they sign 1 or 2 others, there could be a functional attack and there could be some opportunities that may come up. That's all I'll say.
Chat, why don't you guys predict how many weeks Bruno will be in Prus's team next year?
It could be 0,
Yeah.
because he might, the Al Hilal offer, have you heard about it? It's
100 million.
insane.
Varun just posted about it earlier.
Money they're offering Bruno is insane, but we'll talk about that
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
in the private chat. All right, do we want to talk about players? Salah, Haaland, Palmer? I think we've covered that
We
with the
covered
teams.
that, yeah. We already like an hour
okay,
plus in.
We didn't cover Man City, guys. Actually, we did
Let's
talk
do
about Haaland a little bit, but I would say, like I think Zoff mentioned, Mamouche and Guardiola would still be the picks, right? Regardless of who they sign. Like those are the two consistent, you can see them being good FPL picks.
Yeah. Man City is one of those teams where watching them for the first 3 or 4 weeks has a lot of value. Because Pep just comes in with a new system and it takes a while for us to understand that system. So like, I want to see what they're doing is because, Haaland, while I owned him, was for a large part of that period standing on the back post and the chances used to fall on the guy on the front post. I remember that, where the primary chances weren't falling to Haaland, which was very different to how they used him season before that. So how Pep intends on using Haaland and what is the player style, you actually have to see what their window is like, because there will be changes in that team. Pep is clearly not happy. He says he wants a slimmer squad, so let's see what they do.
What next, guys?
All right, players to watch out for next season, just players that you have a good feeling of that might be worth watching for. I have a list of 3. I think Wan-Bissaka, especially because he's very, very advanced in away setups where Potter has used 3 at the back. He almost plays like an attacker, so that could be a player to watch out for, because I think he's good on bonus points. He's got decent assist potential, has developed a great relationship with Bowen if Bowen is still at the club. O'Reilly or whichever wingback City decide to sign, they're linked with Ait Nouri pretty strongly in the last couple of days as well. So that's an interesting position to watch out for. And a player to have a breakout season, even though he's highly priced. I think people are used to having Morgan Rogers at 5.5 million. I think I've been very impressed with his growth curve, even in the second half of the season. Even if he's at 7.5 million, I think he's going to offer good value for money. People might ignore him because he's going to be a lot more expensive than he was the season before this. But my player to watch out for next season is Rogers. I think his growth curve is great, and I think he's an outstanding talent.
Marmoush for me.
Marmoush, you got that feeling about Marmoush since the beginning because of how selfish he is, right?
Yep.
Konza for me. No, I'm just kidding. So look, I mean, my answer is going to be a little bit of a cop-out, because I'm going to say opportunities come from transfer windows. Like after the game is priced, Mbeumo was priced, assuming Tony stays. Tony leaves game week 3, Mbeumo becomes the best pick in the game. So it's stuff like that which will be opportunities for me, which we don't yet know are opportunities. Like if João Pedro leaves, Welbeck is an opportunity. If Mbeumo leaves, the Visa is the opportunity, especially if he takes over penalties. So these are these gems that, this is why July and early August is going to be so important, because every single transfer that happens has a ripple effect on other players within the team, and then that has an effect on your optimal 15 that you're picking in FPL.
What are your thoughts on Madueke? Zoff? Aranya shouted Madueke. I know Zoff really hates Madueke. That's why I asked him that question.
Not as much as I hate Sterling. I would really... Sterling, unfortunately, is
He's coming back.
to our side. I need to pay Arsenal to keep him. But whoever forward now signs at either Chelsea or Arsenal is going to be on everyone's radar as well. 2 teams that have been creating a lot of chances.
Non-penalty taking forwards they will be, though.
Potentially. We don't know yet.
So that will be interesting.
Right. Who is going to be the first manager to get... Now we... Pras sent us a bunch of fun questions. Pras,
now there's a little bit of fun segment, okay? Yep. You cannot say Amorim, okay? Zoff, I'll block you right now. Who's the first manager you think will go this year? Next year?
Maresca.
Ange. I think Ange won't last into next season.
I think Ange as well.
Why Maresca?
Are you a big fan of him? As things stand as well?
I'm not, but he's going to get pretty much, at least he's achieved his objectives, right? We have the youngest average team, age-wise, in the history of the Premier League, and we've achieved 4th. And we likely achieve this rubbish trophy also on Wednesday.
So what's happened, in my opinion, is very similar in terms of trajectory that happened at Leicester, where they had a very good start to the season. And the more the Leicester players learned his ways, the worse they got. And there was rumors about him having a plan A and not having a plan B. And I've seen sort of a similar trajectory in Chelsea season this year as well. There is only one way to play. And the deeper you all have gone into the season, in my opinion, you all have got progressively worse. I think you all have managed to secure that 4th or 5th place because of the great first half of the season you all have had, not the second half of the season. So I am worried about Maresca and Chelsea's system.
I think one of the promoted guys also Daniel Fark from Leeds. I think Leeds will try to get somebody better quite early on if the results don't go their well.
For sure. All right, Pras, let's do your questions.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is if you have the team of the season up, so let's do a little bit of FPL looking back, right? Like we have talked about some of this, but we created a team of the season just to talk about some picks and what we thought were. This is not our picks, right? This is not our team, or like Bowen, I think appeared in none of our teams, but we still think he should be in the team of the year. Starting in goal, I've got Sells and Pickford. Any disagreements?
No.
Nope. I would just start Pickford.
You'd start Pickford over Sells.
Yeah. The only reason being that I'd have Milinkovic over Guardiola, because I think for his price, Guardiola has not lived up to expectations that we had from him.
Guardiola has 5 goals this year.
5 goals,
He
and
could have had
almost
a lot more.
every game he started. I think maybe just one. I think he missed out. A lot of minutes also. Full minutes monster in a City side that normally you don't get that.
Correct, but I just think I expected more from him, especially in the second half of the season. He
I'd chuck
fizzled a little.
Milinkovic in there for sure. I get the point you're
Yeah.
making. If you have to have either Sells or Milinkovic, it would be the latter. I get
Exactly. That's the only reason. Otherwise, I agree with Munoz and Cucurella. Both players we've shouted on the pod a lot of the season. What do you guys think?
Yep, both would be there for me.
Cucurella has made
Cucurella,
it.
I think, would arguably be up there. If Caicedo hadn't been so pivotal, probably a second best player of the season. Palmer would actually be third for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so Salah, Bumo pick themselves. Do they?
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So after that, there's a bunch of people, and actually I was surprised. Normally midfield is like a given, right? You have Saka in there, you have Palmer in there, but this year there was no Son. Saka was injured for a large part. Palmer was out of form for a very large part. Palmer is on the bench. Bowen and Rodgers are starting. Now, this isn't obviously reflective of real life, right? Obviously, you'd start Palmer over Rodgers any game. But as a season, Rodgers has delivered through and through. So, what do you guys think? He wasn't even on set pieces, penalties, but kept delivering just because of minutes.
For his first season, very, very impressive. And I remember all the hype around him game week 1. I'm like, guys, what is this? Why are you spending 0.5 more? Just get Harry Winks and invest that money elsewhere. Completely wrong.
Yeah, I agree with that the midfield choices. And in fact, I'm not sure if Palmer has done enough to make it.
So bad in the second half, Plus. I remember the stats you posted on the FPL show. I think the last 15 game weeks or something, 1 goal or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, data got also progressively worse, but over the course of the season, if you look at the data, it's reflective of a 200-point FPL pick. So sometimes our expectations, when they're not met, we feel it's rubbish, but actually 200 points is not bad. When Trent scored 200 points, we thought he's a god. But of course, he was 7.5, not 10.5 million.
Yeah. Instead of Palmer, I'd have a non-parent Clivert in there. Thought he was a beast.
Okay. Pre-child.
Pre-baby.
Clivert was a different beast. Performed
But
when he was
Ellard
expected
also, that was for a very limited period, no? I would say around 10 to
but
12 game weeks, that's it. But other side of that, it was just like penalties, that's it.
But nobody else performed in midfield. Look at the names you have here. Diaz,
That's the story
Fernandes,
of the season.
Semenyo.
Ultimately, it's been a poor season in terms of picks.
Yep. In fact, more strikers. Strikers were
And the
3-5-2
bonus points
became
are
the
favored
form.
it also, right? The bonus points are favored the forwards.
Exactly.
Eze could have been in there, but he was poor early season, right?
Very poor, yeah. Again, not in terms of data, in terms of output.
While we're talking about Eze, Pras, just very objectively, this question to your thoughts on Ismail Assar.
Biggest troll is coming. I'm going to ask you guys the question. My answer is Sar, man. The guy is such a good pick, such a great pick with great fixtures, does nothing. That was the one frustrating pick, man. And he scores in the first goal that happens in game week 38. Of course, Sar scores. He's on your bench, but he scores.
Yeah.
Sar was something else.
All right. Up front, Isak and Cunha are up there. I just think instead of Wissa, I think Wood deserves in there because of just how ruthless he was in the first 25 weeks of the season.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. And he's got 200 points. He sneaked into 200 points. That's a huge achievement. for somebody who started at what?
6 million. 6 million.
200 points is incredible. So actually, after I checked the actual FPL points, yeah, Chris Wood, because the beauty was he was scoring 1, getting 3 bonus. So basically, it was 9-point games, 9-point games, 9-point games. Getting 200 points is incredible. Whereas for Wissa, he would score, but basically be outshone by Mbumo in some of the games and stuff. So he was not getting those 3 bonus as consistently. But yeah, you can make a case for Wood over Wissa. But Cunha, man, with all these bans, still, like, the guy delivered when you needed him. Like, especially for somebody like me. If you got him
The
game
whole
week 10.
glasses period with him was hilarious. I remember we all wanted him banned and everything.
Exactly. And he played the one game, he scored in that, and then he was banned when everybody wanted to sell him anyway. Incredible.
Yeah, man. I just hope he's in there next season as well.
He'll be there.
Yeah.
In terms of
shout out
bench,
to Robinson, man, performed every time he was called on.
Exactly.
Just genuinely in the first of the season, so reliable as the come.
And no clean
So
sheets. Fulham barely kept any clean sheets. Just attacking returns.
And bonus points. Every time he got a single return, he came through with an extra bonus or 2 as well. Just a fun pick to 1.
And Aït-Nouri similar as Cunha. Like in the periods you wanted him, although he was a little bit of a troll in that 10 to 14, 16 period. He was getting those odd 1-pointers or whatever. But in general, I think he's been good. It could have been Kirkes as well here, because he was really good as well for Bournemouth.
Yeah, Bournemouth, the only thing I would say, they were too much home-away bias. At home, when they were kept the clean sheets, they didn't really do as much defensively, at least away.
No Arsenal picks here. Does that surprise you?
Not really. Because I think in terms of defensive-wise also, they had, 13 clean sheets? That's poor, man, from Arsenal.
Yeah. And Gabriel got injured. If Gabriel was fit, he'd be in there.
Because if you morph Gabriel and Kivior into one player, that was still consistent and good.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So let's go to moments of the season. Now we're indulging a little bit into now we're not getting too much into it. Hopefully it's relatable to everybody. This is basically pulled from a new anewpla.net. And the top parts, the players, the biggest gainers and the biggest rank killers are from FPL Optimized. I think everybody knows Sir Talb's FPL Optimized by now. So this is basically people who gained you the most points in the season. Let's start with Zoff. So you had Mbumo. Mbumo gained you the most points, I think, because you held him when everybody else sold.
I remember
looking
around 170 of his 240 points or something I got.
Yeah. So turned out to be a great pick and turned out to be the perfect Zoff pick, right? Because you just keep him, hold him, you don't need to worry about him, and worked out really well. Then Robinson, we already talked about. Like you had him in game week 1. I had him in game week. I think all of us had him game week 1. And that was one good call. He kept getting those assists, even though they were low XA chances, but he kept getting a lot of great assists. So good gains from him. Saka is your gainer, and Saka is late risers rank killer, even though he is the one who held Saka. So guys, discuss amongst yourselves.
No, but he's not going to be a rank killer next season for sure. We believe in Bukayo. But like, if you're looking at my table, like, I think the biggest takeaway is the significant difference that I have with you guys in terms of captaincy, where you guys have a good 720 points and I have a good 620 points. That's a 100-point difference. And that was a lot of doubling down on hoping Haaland turns his season. And that's where I think a majority of the rank loss happened. Where
that's a lot, LR, because it's ultimately 105 points and we only finished, I think, 15 or 20 apart. So you made 88 points up on me elsewhere.
Yeah, so this was the season for me. The doubling down on Haaland, which out of the 100, I think 80 points I lost to Salah, and I captained Haaland in space of him. And in the meantime, he lost points and bled to Wood and Cunha in that period as well, because of the fact that I owned Haaland, I didn't have Wood or Cunha, and that's where I lost 150 points to the field, and that's the big chunk of me losing ground to everybody else this season.
Yeah, and were you late on Mbumo as well? Because he's also your rank killer. Or you didn't have him in this last period where everyone was captain?
Last 4. I had Saka in the last 4. So Saka is actually also a rank killer because I owned him and everybody owned Mbumo.
Correct. He's double rank killer. Okay, I got it. I think Chris Wood is, for us, he's not here listed. No, it is. For both of us was a rank killer.
Both of you guys are rank killers.
For you, he was a rank gainer because you had him for that hat trick, right?
Yes.
Even though
didn't have him
large
for
parts you
long.
didn't have.
I didn't have him for very long at all.
That
It's
hat
just I
trick
got
made
him-
up for it.
That hat trick pretty much. But just a one period, I think, between game week 20 to 30, around that time. That's about it.
Right. So I'm looking at LR's. I think we all have Munoz. Yeah, Munoz is in yours as well, like Zoff. I think 5th, 6th or 7th. So I think we
I
were
got him
all
later. I had Henderson for a period when you guys had Munoz.
yes.
I got him in a little later.
Correct. So Munoz did well for us, LR. Raya has done well for us. How come you don't have Raya? You didn't get Raya, Zoff?
No, I didn't have Ryan. I went for the cheaper keepers. When you guys
You
went
went
for
to the
game week,
Hendo.
the wild card, I went for Flecken. And it went fine for a large period. You remember for the last, there was this whole time where Flecken was consistently outscoring Raya.
Yeah. No, I mean, it feels very weird with Raya. Like, I don't think it was a mistake at all because of Arsenal's defensive numbers, good fixtures.
They
But
kept conceding
ultimately,
the odd goal.
he kept conceding.
One goal,
So,
one goal every game.
he did turn out to be, early season, first 6 game weeks, he was getting these bonuses and lots of saves, if you remember. Like against Brighton, he got that big monster haul or lots of saves. And against another team, I think Spurs, he got a clean sheet and a haul. So people thought, okay, he's going to be the Raya of Brentford. But it turns out that he was basically another Edison, right? I mean, in the sense of like not lots of saves, clean sheet points, yes, but not much else.
Zoff, what the irony is? You have a double rank killer, like how I have Saka because I held on to him. Solanke features in your rank killers as well because I think that single decision influenced a lot of things game week 1, if you remember correctly.
Yes.
Because you were so big on Solanke and then things changed and he just
I
didn't
completely
perform.
told my team I was on Haaland plus Salah for going into it, and I just like, Ange number 9, need to have him immediately. So that completely led me to restructuring my team and to getting to the worst moment of the season that also involved Solanke. So this was that Villa game where Solanke had been completely blanking, rubbish numbers. I think one shot in like last 5 to 6 matches. So I had the decision whether I have to sell Solanke or Haaland to make some money over there. I ended up selling Solanke instead. Haaland blank, Solanke 15-pointer. Still his highest haul of the season. So that itself was like a 20-30 point tilt in that game week alone.
Yep.
LR, you know that even there are 2 teams that you didn't have any players. So do you know which I didn't show this data here, but I know you're there were 2. There was one team you didn't have a player all year, and there was one team in which you only had one player for one game week all year.
Forest is a team that I didn't own.
No, you had
single.
Forest. You
I had Forest?
Yeah.
You had a defender for a bit.
Maybe for game week 29.
Yep. Free hit week you had 29 one.
Single player, you're talking about maybe
Solanke. That was Spurs.
Okay.
You didn't own any Spurs all year apart from Solanke for game week 1. Then you sold him, I think, game week
He got
2.
injured.
Yeah, he got injured. Yeah.
And the one team you didn't have all year was Leicester.
Fair shout. That's fine.
Well, you didn't
And
have. At first it was Harry Winks. I didn't have any Manchester United, I'm pretty sure.
You did not have Manchester United. That was basically Zoff's one. 0 Man United all year.
Nice.
Not cool. All right. Hits. So, LR, what do you think? Like, was it because there was a little bit of you had to chase, you had to go for it? You took, 9 hits. I took 5. Zoff took 4.
This is great for my standards. Like, I remember you actually talking me down from hits the season
year.
before that as well. So, I think this is fair enough. I can allow myself up to 10 hits a season. I'm okay with that. I don't think I bleed too many points. But it was chasing during double season as well. That's all.
Fair enough. And Zoff, not many double-digit hauls. 10 less than me, 5 less. I mean, what do you think it was down to? I mean, obviously luck, but any player, maybe Cunha's hauls?
Yeah, I missed all of Cunha's hauls. I don't think I got. Only one I got was on free hit. That's about it.
Anything else that stands out?
Wrong
Your
keeper I
points-
played a bunch
points-
of times, but that's a lot of times. Like the way I play is I just play with the starting keeper, sort of the second guy, like your Fabianski, etc. Some game he'd fluke a penalty, etc. I don't think that's much to read into the wrong keeper thing. But again, I
Points
think
benched, obviously, Pras is highest because of the rotation thing that
the
he
way he
spoke
plays.
about.
Yes. It was the case last year also, if you remember. Last year, it was a special year when I benched like hat tricks, Wood hat trick, 2 Foden hat tricks. But this year, at least it was not that bad. But last year, it was also the pricing of FPL, right? I mean, they were like, you could afford everyone. So, but hits, I think in general, I feel as a group we need to reduce. Like the field has reduced their hits a lot more. Like we have been actually on the higher side, especially with the rolling transfer stuff.
Even 4 hits is a lot.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
I think if I can go back and remember, a lot of them were due to injuries.
Possible.
Injuries, we have to take hits also.
Basically, FOMO hits are now very like it's against, you're basically giving 4 points to the field. So something for next season.
Good shot.
Okay, so moments. Let's go through best memory of the season. So start with you, LR.
Two moments, best moments of the season. Going Palmer instead of Saka on the wildcard, and then Palmer coming through with 25 points.
The 4 goals.
Yeah, one of the highs of the season. And David Moyes, assistant manager. 2 of the best moments this season.
Nice.
You, Pras?
Zoff?
You go first.
I mean, mine has to be the Cunha one, Haaland to Cunha. Actually, 2. So one going Salah and Haaland, game week 1. Like that was genuinely a moment of eureka moment on the pod when we podded before the game week, where we were discussing these team structures and we were discussing what is the difference. And I was like,
do you remember you were going to go Oscar Bob and you had a totally different
I will still say next season I'll be here again, basically telling you guys that maybe if there's a fixture swing, hold your transfers until that fixture swing, wildcard, get to 5 free transfers. I still believe that is a great way to start the season. Be on top with 5 free transfers, play an early wildcard. That doesn't change as long as the rules don't change. But yeah, of course, the path that I did end up taking got very lucky. And it was exactly on this pod where we were discussing Solanke, that you guys in your team. And I was like, if you downgrade Solanke to João Pedro, then you can take this Saka to Salah. And I was like, man, why can't I have both of them? And that was exactly the moment where I was like, I'll have Salah and Haaland.
And that was the inverse structure, because I remember the team selection videos before that. I was on both, right?
You were on both.
Yeah, we were all on it. We had Muniz. We had Muniz in our team selection.
And you guys remember, then we have obviously a WhatsApp chat with Varun Baba, who's here in the thing. And I was like, for my game week 1 team selection, put Salah on the thumbnail. And you guys were like, what?
Ooh.
And I was like, yeah. So
yes, I remember this.
We started with the same 11, and I remember in game week 1 without any discussion. We all decided prior to game week 1, we'd all cut off group chats so you can go on an individual pass. LR and I, same 11.
But you guys like Munoz and you were very big on Solanke,
we did so much
both of you.
preseason content also together, right? So eventually we hype up Munoz, we
this
hype
always
up Guardiola,
happens.
etc. So naturally happens. You talk about the same players prior to that, your thoughts will converge.
This is why I will always have a soft spot for João Pedro. It was João Pedro that enabled Salah plus Haaland, basically.
Yeah.
But that was it. And obviously the Haaland move, man. Like, it is underplayed how difficult it was for a safe manager like me to sell Haaland. Like, I am not that kind of manager. And I even made a Twitter post where I made a sad face that this is the face of a guy who's selling Haaland. I was shitting it, man. Seriously. Like, how can you
didn't
sell
decide
Haaland?
it till really late that week also. It's not
It
like
was on
you
my
determined-
mind, but yeah, I had to get the courage because I had triple captained him in game week 9 and I'm talking of selling him in game week 10.
Next week.
So it was very, very hard to do. And of course, it had huge variance. But I think those are the 2 moments that I remember.
For me, probably there was this one period when Palmer, I think we captained him for 3 game weeks in a row. It was a game against Spurs, a game against Villa, and he double-digited in all 3 of them. So I think for that, that's what we play this game for. What a large part of it we play for the dopamine, right? The clubs we support, the players we like, when they deliver for us in FPL, that's the ultimate high. So that's really, I think, the period I enjoyed. And the late on, I think the KDB goal, also around which we captained him for against Wolves, was a little bit left field compared to what we were doing. So that also hit a little bit different because, again, it's a player I really love so much.
Yep, agreed.
Nice.
Agreed.
Okay, then I don't want to say worst decisions, but worst moment, I suppose. Like, I know LR's, I mean, it's going to be very clear. But why don't you start, LR?
Erling Haaland, watching him for 6-7 weeks in a row, blanking week on week. It hurt more when he clocked 1+ XG 3 games in a row and blanked in those games. Then when he didn't, like, at least it's much more easier to digest the decision if he's not getting the underlying data. Like, you can admit you're wrong, and I'm just happy enough to admit I'm wrong. But when variance plays a role where he gets 1+ XG and you still don't get the points for that, that's when you're a little frustrated, and that's when it gets to you.
Another moment also that Limsa mentioned is that Glasner AMLR. We have to mention that also for you. That's a
Oh
good
yeah, I had to.
moment.
That would be my third, man. That was
Yeah.
all LR. I have
Yeah.
no shame in admitting I was on
That was
slot
fun.
or I was going to go somewhere else, and LR was like, guys, just trust me
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah, it's because I was pretty confident that we are not going to get this chip again, and I couldn't let both of my partners not have at least one shot at the
Table
ultimate
bonus.
prize in this chip, right? Like it would feel incomplete if you guys let go of this chip without even giving it a shot. So,
And by beating
that,
Villa, by beating Man City, they showed that this is the team that can get you the table bonus. Like this, it was the perfect team to support for a table bonus.
yeah, man, yeah. I do think like whatever our seasons went through, like given the comments that we've gotten the last couple of days on Twitter as well, right? So if you've not been on X, like there's been
I
a
checked.
flurry
It's
of
nice.
flurries and thank you. I think we did a decent job of helping people out there, at least in making good decisions this year. So at least that's something that makes me happy this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, last one in this segment is
Your worst
basically.
moment, Russ? I mentioned mine earlier. You didn't mention
Oh, my
yours.
worst moment.
Russ is struggling.
Not picking Eze on Wildcard.
Oh
Like
yeah, but
on the
we were
pod, I
sad.
kept saying,
the
if there's
Foden
money,
thing,
go Eze.
it actually distorted our team so much because I think at least you and me, plus we were both big on going Eze over Sar.
Yep.
LR mentioned he liked Trippier over Livramento with that difference. But I think we had discussed this. If he had gone for, let's say, even a Savio over a Foden, we'd have probably gone with Eze.
Eze would have been there, man. Eze is like my Mbumo type pick, man. Like I could not even be angry with him when he does so well. Like he's class, man. So yeah, not going Eze on wildcard will be the one. I mean, Bowen, Wood, those are not my picks. Like they can do well, and I can still be okay that I didn't go there. Eze was the one, especially if
And we
he
spoke
knew he
about
was
it
on
on the
penalties.
pod.
But
That,
we're
you know,
seeing
this
it now, the
guy's
form, the streaky form is coming.
Exactly. We spoke about the streaky form on the pod. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. That was one that got away. Okay, so now we go to FPL next season. Unless you guys have anything else in terms of looking back, any memories, anything else.
No, let's
If you
just
could go back
let's
and
see.
change one decision, I
Yeah.
think this is a fun question. Just
Yeah.
one thing I would say: get the second last draft of my Gameweek 1 team.
That's a huge one.
That's a decision I would change
I'd
if I
agree.
could just change.
And you remember
one.
another deadline stream also, you asked me, so what was the one thing you could change in your team? I remember when
Yeah.
I was like, bro, I'd get Salah game week 1, bangs.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
banked.
Russ, anything you would change?
It's again, I think it's just the Eze thing. Like I think before Gameweek 26, I got pretty much stuff right and the outcomes were right. Okay, there was this one week, Gameweek 24, where I had 4 free transfers, and I ended up making them all before Wednesday. You know the one where I went
the
to
Gakpo.
Dubai.
The Gakpo
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And then then the doubles were announced, and I was convinced that if the double has been announced, I have to play my assistant manager chip. So maybe I could have held my transfers that week. There was no need to. Oh, there, Andy Matton has
Andy's
found it.
to remind you.
Andy, I'm here, man. Don't worry. I own up to my stuff. So yeah, I think I should have held, and probably even there was this European game where Bruno was the one who was basically playing very, very deep. Maybe I would have not even sold Mbumo. I would have sold Bruno, and Mbumo did really well as well. So those are not regrets, but if I could change it, I would basically go back in Game Week 24 and tell myself, just hold your transfers.
Yep. All right, let's do the next season stuff.
All right. So
Wait. Before we do the next season stuff, Zoff Pras, one nice subscribe plug, just probably for the last time in a month at least.
Plus,
I'll
why don't
go.
you do this? Yeah.
yes, I will go. So guys, firstly, as LR mentioned, we are so thankful for all the love, all the support on X. I mean, it's actually been hard to look at sort of all the tags and all the places where people have thanked us because it has been overwhelming. So thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. We do listen to what you guys are saying, all the feedback in the comments, in the chat, and we will try to do better and get even better in terms of how we help you with your decision making. Always on the FPL Wire, we're always about not telling you the answer, but giving you the menu of options and then telling you what decisions you need to make and how to get to your answer. So, and if you do like our content, like our streams, of course, like you do, comment on them. That's always helpful. Subscribe to our channel. We wanted to get to 40K. I think we won't get there. But anything you can do to get us up would be really, really appreciated. And of course, if you want to become a member, like I said earlier, you can join us on Patreon on patreon.com/the FPL Wire.
All right, cheers.
Next season, boys. We have to do our sleeper contest winners also. Let's not forget that. Remind me to bring
Let's
that
do
up.
it now before we move into the last
I
season
was
because we
just
don't have
thinking,
like a.
yeah, let's get that
Yeah.
out of the way. Can you guys read it or you want me to read it out?
Just we have the winners outside of the top 3 kits that we're giving out to the top 3 managers from our Discord and the top monthly winner for the actual winner. These are the winners for our top 10. The top 2 are going to get a PS5 that's already been sorted by the tiebreaker, and position 3 to position 10 is going to get a Premier League kit of their choice. So congratulations. Why don't you read out the names of?
Yep. I don't think I'll read out all. I'll read out the top two guys who are going to get the PS5, Dr. Stree Brule 7 and Ale Lechef. Congratulations to you guys. We will be getting in touch with you very soon. Thank you to Sleeper very much so for supporting us. We will be continuing to doing content for them over the summer break. So we do these videos. I just recorded one. LR also sent them. In case you guys aren't checking it out, those videos are going to be on the Sleeper apps. They're all very short videos, 30-second to 1-minute videos. Do keep supporting them.
Yes.
Awesome. Let's go to the 3 window again.
Yes.
And let's go to things for next year. So, if FPL Towers, Mark Southerns, if you're listening to this, then we wanted to do a little segment on how we want the game to change, or one thing that we want the game to improve upon. So, LR, you had a great post on X that got people talking in terms of penalty takers. Why don't we start with that?
In general also, maybe because of the quality of footballers out there that is there in the current scenario, I do feel like the game is very heavily weighted towards penalty takers more than it needs to be, because a lot of the top 6-7 point scorers, they have higher than upwards of 35% of their points scored due to penalties, which I just think is a lot, especially because of the extra weightage that happens due to the bonus points that come in your favor through the penalty goals as well. And in some way, if you could limit the impact of penalties scored, so a lot of people suggested that, we could maybe take down penalties scored. It doesn't matter if you're a defender, midfielder, or attacker. Why does a penalty scored from a forward get you more, from a midfielder get you more points than a penalty scored from a forward? If penalties scored in general were weighted similar to assists, like 3 points across the board in position, I think that would make picks like Luis Diaz, make picks like Semenyo, who are not as preferred compared to Kluiverts and the Salas of the world, because we'll automatically pick the Luis Diaz's of the world just don't have a chance. There isn't any value to eye test. Like, why are you watching players when the game is so heavily weighted towards the penalty takers that, even if you watch and you see that this player is doing well, 2 random occurrences which are not related to the player at all will mean that he wins because he just takes penalties, right? So something to even this out, to make the pool of selectable players slightly wider would, in my opinion, help the game. That's all.
Well, I think in general, I think I agree with the point that there is a little bit of, penalty takers are king, and people, it narrows the pool. It's going to be hard for the tech. A goal is a goal. Like, when you do the goal, then you have to add the same number of points. So I don't know if FPL can do the tech as well. But I think one thing
How do
they
do it
can
in the
do.
World Cup? They do something that the World Cup is the same. Is it penalty scored as a goal?
What they change is the one who wins the penalty
It's 2
gets
points.
2 points, regardless of whether the penalty is
Scored
scored or
or
not. I
not.
think that's great as well.
That's a great rule.
Like,
I agree.
Yeah. But penalty taker points, I think the one thing they can adjust is the penalty taker prices. Like, there is no reason for a non-penalty taker or a penalty taker to be the same price as another one who's not. Like, Mbeumo and Gordon should not be the same price. One takes pens, one doesn't. Now, irony is Mbeumo wasn't on pens when the game was priced, because Tony was still at Brentford. So these out of position opportunities, just like they come, penalty opportunities also come. Some guy starts taking penalties who you didn't think was on pens. But price should reflect it, is also another point.
Is there a case, just random top of the head idea? Let's say, for example, let's talk about Chelsea, for example, okay? And let's assume that the next in line penalty taker after Palmer is Enzo Fernandez, just for argument's sake. Let's say Palmer gets injured for 4 or 5 months. Not saying this will happen, just giving an example. And the game week 1 hasn't happened yet. The game hasn't launched yet. Is there a case to be made just because of this significant event, due to which we find out that Enzo Fernandez is the penalty taker, but he's priced at 5 million? Should his price go up by 2 million because it's still not game week 1? Will that become difficult to accommodate? Like, because a lot of the times these pricing mistakes happen because of lack of information pre-game week 1, because FPL launches its game well in advance to game week 1. So maybe, I don't know.
It could, but then people could have made their team and gone on holiday a week before, and then they'll be like, you made my team invalid, or now I can't make a transfer. I have to remove 2 million out of my squad. A bit like if you
Yeah.
have four players from Spurs, like
Yeah.
James
Yeah.
Planet FPL did in Gameweek 1, if you remember. He had Solanke
Yeah.
and 3 others. It sounded fun then, but given Spurs this season, it was not that fun, in terms of outcome. It's hard. I've thought about this as well in terms of correction. Like if there's a major
Yeah.
change, can they correct prices? It's difficult, man. And the other answer could be just launch late, but no, man. This is a commercial initiative. Like they have to launch
Yeah.
before, create the hype, so that the people are talking about it in water coolers and then creating work leagues. Has to be launched earlier. There is no solution to it.
Agreed.
My two suggestions, I think, would be primarily one, the bonus point system, like I think we already discussed earlier. It's way too nerf for defenders in favor to our forwards. You need to level the playing field. How so exactly, I'm not sure. I'm sure the guy powers that be can figure that out. And secondly, there's a lot of things still whether it's about the assists, right? Certain goals are given as an assist or not given. So anytime I think a player gets a touch, don't give it as an assist. Stop this assist for these block shots, rebounds, and all that stuff. Let it just be very clear. If Opta defines it as an assist, it's an assist. That's it.
But points are fun. So.
Points are fewer, I agree, but ultimately, seasons can be decided. Title, it's not happened this year, but you go back to a couple of years earlier, the March goal, for example, I know that's an own goal sort of thing. It's completely unrelated in that sense, but small things can make impacts in mini leagues. Just be very clear. This is black and white. This is an assist. This is not an assist.
Yeah, or you go the other way, where you say whoever touched the ball last, no matter what.
Yes, exactly. Make it something where there is no ambiguity.
Yeah. So then you're going above Opta, above fantasy assists. You're basically saying you touch the ball. After that, the opponent defender basically played with it, lost possession. The other guy scored. That guy still gets the assist.
That's
so
fine.
there's going to be some controversy there as well. Like how has he assisted? But at least it's clear.
I don't mind the goalkeeper thing as much, but again, there's a lot of things where it takes 1 touches, 2 touches. Be a little bit more clear about it.
So I had a different one. I had one which is, I feel if we start playing the game now with over 5 years with the same rules, what's going to happen is it's going to start to become I alluded to this like a one-day international. Like you will see that between Wildcard 1 and double season, people will start getting very defensive, make long-term moves. The thing I was trying to basically get to with Bruno. Like I'm buying Bruno because in 6 weeks he's playing Leicester. I don't want to use up transfers. I want to accumulate transfers. I want to play it with a straight bat. I feel a lot of people will get into this of playing safe in the middle overs or the middle game weeks. I feel to counter this, reduce the points for a hit. Like make people do transfers. Make it -2, -3, so that people actually can chase things, and you can actually and this is even more relevant with more injuries, more teams in Europe, that maybe if hits are cheaper, then for players who are very aggressive, who have an eye for short-term trends, can basically also get into the game. It's something that I've been thinking about. Maybe it counters the 5 free transfers. So there's like 2 strategies of playing the game. You make 2 transfers every week versus the other guy who's basically rolling for 5 free transfers.
That would fundamentally change, I think, the way we play the game. If it goes to 2, it completely changes things.
Yeah, and imagine the fun, right? Only 2 points for a hit. You can actually really chase like 1 week captaincies.
Even chip season becomes a lot easier to navigate with those 2-point hits. And that makes chip season also a lot more fun. You don't necessarily need chips for those double game weeks anymore.
Yeah,
Like, free hit completely in a blank changes the strategy in that sense.
Yep.
I
Right.
can see in the chat there's a few other suggestions. Somebody said.
Do you all agree with removing the Aspanship?
That
100%.
That's going. I mean, we think. We
think
hope.
so. We hope so.
Yeah, that has to go. Surely. I mean, they're very.
I would actually
know
like
what they're
them to-
doing.
Elite Serien, I've read about the chips. I haven't looked into it. I like the things they do over there. In terms of there's a week where I think all your defenders get double points. Things that are a little bit more dynamic in terms of chips I would like to send them to introduce. They're trying that stuff with the FPL Challenge, where they do it certain clubs and all that stuff. What I don't want them to introduce from FPL Challenge is it's all ball recovery and all that. That just makes the scoring more complex. But I want the chips to be a bit more fun. Because now the double game weeks factors have gone out of the chips, right? We're not looking as much now bench boost in a double. There are fewer opportunities for that. So something more fun over there.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I like
Yeah,
this
I
also.
definitely the captain plus vice captain getting double the points is a chip that is just easy to introduce, and it's such a fun chip. Like if you get two players who could get double the points, that would be a lot more fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like this idea by Mark. Player prices at the start of the season, there's no reason for them to be in 0.5 increment. Like sometimes a player doesn't have to be, like you can have a 7.8 and 8 million player. Is it becoming overly scientific? Maybe. But, it's okay if we have 0.3 left in the bank in game week 1, no?
It is.
Yep.
Okay, so that's all. If there's any other suggestions, put them in the comments in the chat. Those are always fun to read. There was also this thing of first half of the season chips. I'm not a fan of this. What do you guys think? Because I feel everybody will do the same. So you have even more weeks where people are doing the same thing.
No, I don't
Everybody
like
will
that.
bench boost game week 1. Everybody will triple captain when Haaland plays Southampton, or in this case, Salah plays Southampton next season. Or sorry, there's no Southampton. Sorry, Southampton. Sunderland. So I just think it'll just conform everybody even more if you have first half chips.
And of course, price change transparency is something we all want.
Oh my
Won't
God,
get.
that would be amazing if
That
there was
we'll
no
never get.
transparent. Yeah.
Okay, looking forward now, price predictions. So I'm going to throw some names, just gut feeling, right? I mean, doesn't need to be scientific. Let's just see, because next year you watch the video and you go, oh, actually I said Rodgers should be 7, but he's now only 6. So maybe I should be thinking about Rodgers more. So let's start with Haaland and Salah. Let's take them as a pair, because it's always a relative pricing, because you will most likely have one or the other. So Zoff.
I think I'll go with what you said on the FPL show. Very similar pricing. 14 for Salah, 13.5 for Haaland. I think Haaland...
So Haaland cheaper.
I want Haaland to be cheaper just because of recency bias. If you're going to make Haaland the same price as Salah, everyone's going to pick Salah over Haaland.
But isn't that an opportunity?
It is, isn't it? But I still want them to be like people who go for Haaland. I would say, in fact, just make Haaland even cheaper. Make him 13, make Salah 14. Just to tilt that scale toward that direction.
But only a year ago, we were talking about perma cap Haaland, perma hold Haaland.
I mean, but
Haaland
recency
doesn't go
bias is
anywhere.
everything. It's human psychology. I'm not saying it's the right way to do it, just purely to prevent Salah from being what we saw Haaland. Haaland, I think, was 70 to 80% owned at the start this year, something like that, or 60 to 70 despite that price. I don't want Salah.
That would be Salah's highest price ever.
Yes,
It would
and he
be.
deserves it. He's got his highest point total ever.
Okay,
Right?
to 340 plus points is ridiculous. Like, he should have hit 400 if Liverpool are going till game week 38 with the title. What about you, LR?
I agree with Zoff's price prediction. 14 for Salah, and I would say even 13, 12 and a half for Haaland.
12 and a half is low, man.
12 and a half is a bit.
13,
could-
13 then.
13, yeah. 13 is, I think, as low as I would
I would go
want
13 and a
Probably.
half. I would still
Yeah.
say
13
make
to
people
13 and a
choose.
half, yeah.
Okay, let's go with the other, then the next tier. So let's take Isak, Saka, and Palmer. Should they be all similar priced?
I think so. Within 0.5 of each other, between, like, I would say 9.5 to 10.5 feels right. Maybe even 11 tops.
LR?
Isak should be, I think Palmer should be 0.5 lesser than Saka. In
Which
my
was the
opinion.
opposite this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, given what we've seen. And Isak should be the same price as Saka.
Around 10 million, right?
But he's a
10
forward,
and a half.
remember.
Yeah, I would go higher then, because the gap shouldn't be so high between Haaland and Isak. Still 10 and a half, I reckon.
So my view is forwards are relatively hard to price up that much, because you get these penalty taking forwards from other teams and they just become so good
The budget
Yeah,
that
guys,
people
right?
ignore.
Your Cunhas, your Woods and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
So like forwards is very tricky. Like, even though I think that they have the same potential from an eye test perspective, they get less points for a goal, injury prone. So I just feel like if I was to, I would do like 11 Saka, 10 and a half Palmer, and 10 Isak, something like that. Isak would be the lower of the two, but just by a little bit, only because he's
share.
a forward.
If the points remain the same, fair enough.
Enabler makes a good point.
Yeah.
Saka had 6 league goals. He says you guys are hyping up so much. Just the potential, man.
Guys, respect Saka, man.
Yeah.
Respect Saka. Okay, now some interesting names that are outside shouts. So Mbumo, assume he stays.
10 million. It's a Clint Dempsey thing. I remember Clint Dempsey, the season he got 20 goals after for Fulham, he was around 10 million the season after. Wasn't he? Maybe I'm wrong, but he deserves
Ella?
something around 10.
I think 10 is a little too much. I would still price him at 9.5.
9-ish, yeah. It is that you can't price him the same level as like a Saka.
No. 9, no, 9.5. Too high.
He has to be the same price as Bruno and Odegaard, no? Like 8.5, 9.
More so than Odegaard, I would say, because again, Odegaard, we've seen the FPL output this season has been abysmal. Bruno, you could still say.
He got like 5 assists in 5 goals or something like 5 games at the end of the season. But yeah, I'm not saying Odegaard is the same potential. But I feel Mbeumo has also outperformed a lot, right? Has overperformed his XG a lot.
Just talking historically, once Bruno had his insane season, he moved up to 12 million, which is 18 goals and 14 assists. And then from his first season, he moved to 10.5 million. So you can expect a minimum 10 million pricing for Mbeumo if they follow the similar price trends.
It'll be too much, man.
Yeah,
They
but
scored
that's
the fifth most goals.
8.5,
They scored
9.
the 5th most goals plus in the leagues. That also matters, right? Whether Brentford can sustain that.
yeah.
And they'll be a team to target because they're not in Europe. So target as in to buy from.
Yeah.
So okay, let's go with that. Let's go with Mamouche. I think he'll be very interesting.
The Mamouche, I would say again around 10. I think it's maybe slightly cheaper than Isak, maybe because he's not as talismanic. But again, if Haaland gets injured, Mamouche becomes game breaker. If you price him any lower, it's what happened with Alvarez last year. That's the thing, right? If all these teams, you have to be very careful while pricing the backup forwards in these teams.
That's interesting. Yeah, I agree with you. But I still think 10 is too much. I think 9.5 million. Like, go a little lower. Make him a pick when Haaland doesn't play too.
You have to make and also you have to look at him, making him as an alternative to Haaland. Let's say like today I'm not going for Haaland, I'll buy Mamouche. I can make that 4 million up somewhere else. So I get that point as well.
Yeah.
Plus?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very hard. Given you think you guys agree he's a forward, right?
Yes, absolutely.
He stays a forward.
He is a forward.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know, right? If they sign.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think he should be a forward. I think 9.5 is good. Like, he should be a million difference between him and Isak. Otherwise, it's just wrong.
Exactly.
And if Haaland gets injured, you get him. It's a bit like Alvarez back in the season.
And there should be substantial, like you said, right, pricing up to penalty takers, which isn't the case. That should just be that in itself should mean a price difference of 2 million basic.
What do you guys think Spurs and United are going to be priced at next season? Are they going to? They can't obviously. Normally, we see pricing is reflective of league position, but they obviously can't price them the same price they're going to do like a Joao Gomez at Wolves and stuff, or a Munetsi.
They'll have to.
Let's take it for example. Cunha at United. What would you price him at?
8 million.
Becomes quite a good pick, right? At that price, if you,
if it takes sense.
Yeah.
And I think we will see that because we saw that with Havertz this year also 8 million. You're still playing for Arsenal. Arsenal's number 9 at the start of the season. I think Cunha will be 7.5 or 8.
Yeah. It'll be interesting, right? If let's say Ahmad is the wing right side at 10 and Cunha is the left side at 10 and one is a forward and one is a midfielder. Like, how does that work in terms of positioning? That also becomes difficult to do, right?
I'll find it hard to trust any Man United initially and then jump on all of them as soon as they score.
One thing I can guarantee is I will own a Manchester United player next season.
Good. That's a good start. That means our season is looking up.
It'll be better than this year. Although it was amusing to hear him say that not being in Europe is an advantage, that kind of cracked me up.
Ella was saying the same thing in our group. He's basically the perennial optimist in our group chat, Man United group chat.
Yeah, I think it's good for the club. I think they needed to hit rock bottom. That's a different podcast only. Maybe we should do United podcast at some point for us. Yeah.
All right. Let's go to budget enablers of this season. So let's go to Bournemouth Meets. Divert Semenyo. If they stay, of course.
I think they're all around 5 to 6, around 6.5, right? They're basically 5 to 6.5 this season. I think they'll all get about 1 to 1.5 million bumps. Not more than that.
Yeah.
So 6.5,
7 million.
7 million, like a Gordon price.
Yeah. But I feel like because of penalties, there should be $1.5 million price difference between Kluivert and Semenyo. Like that
because
should
they get
be
so many penalties as well. Yeah.
That should be priced into the price difference. Otherwise, Semenyo doesn't become a pick and Kluivert remains the pick. That penalty takingness, like Pras said, that if you can't change the points, price the pens accordingly.
Yeah. But Rogers?
7 million.
7 million.
What
But
did he
his
finish?
goal
What did he
output
finish
was
at?
not amazing ever.
What did he
but
finish
it's
at
going
this
to
year?
come.
Because I think that impacts a lot. I've noticed a lot of the years they see the price that they finished at the end of the season, and it's somewhere they try to get it somewhere close to that at least. I think he finished.
but
He didn't go above 6, right? So I think 6.5
No.
to 7. 7, I think 7 is fine. Nothing above
7 is
7.
fine. He 8 goals, 11 returns with prime age upside. That's 20 returns in a season plus. That's substantial. Without pens, it's
fair enough. We just benched a lot of those. That's the problem.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, let's engage in an Arsenal striker who is reasonably nailed.
10.5 million.
I think they won't do it for 10.5. I think Havertz they started with at 8. I think 9.5.
But Havertz is
Even
objectively
Jesus.
a false 9, right?
Yeah, but
Not
even
like a pure
Jesus,
striker.
even Jesus in that season when he started quite well was around 9 only, I think.
But if it's
It also
somebody
depends who it is
pro-
also. If it's a Gyökeres or
like
something, it's a big name.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. It depends if it's a pure striker or a false 9 sort of striker. If it's a pure striker,
This just
then
shows how hard it is to price, right? I mean, this is why it's tough, man.
Like United Ultra makes a good
suddenly you
point
get one
here.
guy.
Somebody like a Sesko, for example, who's much more of a creative guy, 7.5. Gyökeres 9.5. I think that's reasonable.
Tesco is a snip at 7.5. 8 million minimum for an Arsenal striker. You have to respect the team. Top 4 team guaranteed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, defenders. Let's go to defenders. So, who's the most expensive defender? Guardiola, right? Or
Has to be-
Gabriel?
I think Gabriel, Guardiola, Van Dijk, you have to put them around a similar bracket. I don't think there'll be any defender above 6 million.
Honestly, I think Munoz should be priced the same. Especially if he stays in the similar setup under Palace. There's nobody like him.
Don't say
in the
that,
league.
man. Don't.
I agree with you.
There is nobody
Munoz has
like-
to be 6 million. There's no other defender like him in the league.
If you price him at 5.5, nailed on in everybody's team. If you price him at 5 million, obvious pick in everybody's team, he has to be 6 million. It has to be a choice between a Munoz, who's an attacker for a team like Palace, versus a Gabriel, who's not an attacker in a good defense like Arsenal. It has to be. Munoz has to be 6 million.
I still go 5.5.
5.5 for me. You have to put the top 5 defenders a little bit higher still.
I don't know, man. He's not even like Porro. Porro was like this assister. He's a goal scorer. He's an
I
attacker.
totally
like-
agree with you, but again, league position is a thing. You can't price him at the same price.
Fair enough. And he still only got 4
But he'll be
goals.
interesting.
Yeah.
Who are the other attacking defenders? Like, I don't think there's a huge bump
There
for
were few this
Robinson.
season.
Yeah. So
Frimpong's pricing will be interesting because I think he's levels above Bradley. Once he nails his spot down. And this year, remember, Robertson got just 1 assist. So if you get somebody like Kirk is also actually getting assists on the other side.
It'd be
But they
interesting
might
because Slot might change his system, right? Because even Trent, while he was Trent, wasn't bombing forward. It was a lot more conservative role under Slot than it was under Klopp for Trent. Like it wasn't 10 goal, 10 assists, 10 plus assist season like we have seen for Liverpool. Like they don't play the same way that they did under Klopp, where the wing backs were so attacking, right? So it becomes interesting to see what the role was also.
for the Liverpool fullbacks, they should basically do what they did with Ortega and Edison this year. Like don't take a guess. Like Robertson at 5 and Bradley at 5 and the others at 6, 6.5. And then if there's an injury, then you're screwed. Like then everybody goes on the other guy. So I think they should all be like 6 million. Robertson, Kirkes, Frimpong, Bradley.
And one of them is going to be a steal. Because actually, if I think about it, he's going to make Gravenberch and if he plays Wirtz as the 10, he's going to make Gravenberch and McAllister do the dirty work in terms of providing defensive stability. That means at least one of the two wingbacks will push forward.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. I think we don't need to discuss goalkeeper.
Prediction for top scoring FPL asset next year. Salah.
Salah is the easy answer.
Easy one. Let's not say Salah.
I'm going to go Haaland.
Yeah.
I'll be controversial and go Haaland.
Haaland is not controversial, man.
I know.
Man, you tell anybody they are not even in his team.
We can't say Salah or Haaland apart from these two guys.
If I'm going left field, I'll say Bukayo Saka.
I was going to go with Saka as well.
Who I pick then?
Palmer under a different manager, I would say Palmer.
A forward if Chelsea signed a legit forward. You going Palmer?
No, I won't go Palmer. I can't go Palmer with what we have seen now. I would have gone Saka, but let me go have Haaland, man. Nobody expects Haaland to be the top
Yeah,
scorer
that's fine.
next year.
All
Okay,
right. Let's go
we'll
Haaland.
stick
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
stick with it, buddy. All good. Isak is a good shout as well. Some people in the chat are saying, but I'm worried about Champions League with Newcastle.
Exactly. They will sign a better backup. Wilson is not staying next year. Not that Isak will not get minutes, but Isak is not the same minute. To be a FPL top scorer, you have to be a minutes monster at the heart of it. That's the number one thing you need to have. Every single game, 90 minutes, regardless of Europe. Isak is not that, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, I agree with you there.
Okay, so anything else, guys, in terms of looking forward?
Nothing much. Just last question: what will be changed next season in the way we play? I think I've already mentioned I'm going to be boring Zof. Again, I tried too many different things this year, which are out of my comfort zone. Fortunately, they're out of my system now. So, go back to what I know. What about you guys?
LR?
Try to be stable at the start of the season, but this season was a lot more fun for me compared to last season because I went against my personality trying to constrain myself. I was a lot more comfortable with this season because I played how I like to play, and I just have a lot more fun when I'm allowed to be myself. So
That's the
just
contrast
taking away
between the two of us, right? I think that's exactly perhaps why I haven't enjoyed this season, because many times I know that this is the guy I want to pick. This is the guy I really want, and I know this is the guy I'll do well. I'll pick point B, and this is just painful. The guy who you want just gets the points.
Yeah. I also genuinely don't think I've played too wild goosey this season. I genuinely don't think I've gone far off character and gone very differential. The big 100-point gap was the Haaland Cunha Wood thing. Like that in itself is a huge chunk of points. Outside of that, I haven't. I mean, the fact that both our teams for a lot of the time of the season were similar is indicative that I've honed in. And just one thing, right? I mean, like we need to sort of shift the goalposts in general in terms of I've had 4 out of my last 5 seasons have been poor, and I've just become a lot more comfortable enjoying playing the game. And in the great and the good, 3 out of 25 managers finish in the top 10k. That's just 3. That's just indicative of how difficult it is to get a top 10k this season. So it's all right,
50
man.
or 100k, man. You look at the Elite 64 also, very few managers are in there. I think that's a good point you mentioned also. A lot of times I think I've learned to cope with bad game weeks a lot better, and I think I sort of want to take that into last year, this sort of detachment from FPL that sort of happens with when you have a bad game week or a bad season, right? I don't want to necessarily carry that emotion with me into it. It should always be an escape and a release. It shouldn't be something that sort of depresses me going into the week ahead. And I've gotten a lot better at that this year, and I think I would like to try to take that next year as well.
Same. Like I've enjoyed doing content throughout the season, especially even in the last 10 weeks of the season. Despite my rank, I've become detached to rank and just knowing how I enjoy playing the game. So that's what I'm gonna give it a right go.
Russ?
I just want to what can I say, man? Like I want to get to free transfers next season. Like I want less FOMO. Like I felt that there were moments where I made the transfers out of FOMO. I want to be more stable. So I know I already am, but it's something that I want to take to next year. I will make sure that I continue to be longer term thinking and hope to get lucky, man. I feel like there is so much luck involved in the game that we need to be off to good starts, play steady, not tilt. I think not tilting is a big one that we are all prone to basically making those. And again, I have to keep plugging that analytics has helped me not tilt as well. Because if you're feeling like this guy has blanked for 3 weeks, like, is it still the sensible move to take him out? I think price changes also helps a lot, like in terms of like you not being swayed by price changes. There are weeks where you can be aggressive because the player that's rising was anyway part of your path and you wanted to get on that player. So be aggressive with the price change, get the guy. But other weeks where your player is dropping and you know that he still fits in a rotation, I don't have to play him every week, take the price drop. I feel like that disengagement, that using a little bit of a unbiased friend like an analytical model, it always helps at least my gameplay, and I want to do that.
That's a great point you make, Pras, and I think this is something I missed on last year. I didn't subscribe to any analytical models this year, and it was quite of a deliberate decision because it worked well for me last year. That was one of the main reasons you remember. Plus, I didn't play the Gameweek 29 free hit the last season because I wasn't on any of these models. I just went on
Yeah.
my own path completely. But this year, it obviously worked to my detriment because maybe that's when it could have helped me keep more of a level head. But yeah, this is a transfer you want to do. This guy is on the computer, which has 100 variables fed into it, is agreeing with me. So yeah, maybe I should make the sensible move. So perhaps something I should incorporate into next year as well.
And I think one underrated aspect of analytical models is path. Like you're
Agreed.
sitting here right now and you have Solanke, and now Solanke is injured, right? So you can do two things. You can get Watkins or you can get João Pedro. So what this is telling you is if you do João Pedro now, you'll release 3 million, and in 4 game weeks when everybody will want Palmer, you will have released that 3 million so that you can go up from Bruno Fernandes to Palmer. That kind of pathway, don't have to follow it, right? There's a misunderstanding of people's minds that if it's telling me this, I will have to do this. No, you can tell the model, you know what, I'm not interested in Palmer in game week 6, and you can say I ban him, I don't want him. Then he'll say, okay, then get Watkins now. So the question isn't who is better, Watkins or João Pedro. The question is who is better as a path, who does he enable for me to get, this guy versus this guy. And I think the other thing is captaincy, like captaincy planning, like going forward, make sure this week, like this season, you saw in game week 34, everybody was doing Saka to Bumo. Everybody was doing Bumo. Why? Bumo was top captain game week 35, top captain game week 36, top captain game week 37. I mean, maybe people didn't captain him in 37 because it was Watkins eventually. There was a reason why it was such a big, hard recommendation. I think that should be respected.
Agreed.
My
It
headphones
tells you
have run
what
out of battery.
you don't know.
We've
What
gone
you
for 2
don't know
hours.
yet. Oh, wow. All right, man. Also, before we end, a big thank you to you two fine gentlemen. You guys make the game a lot more enjoyable than it would have been otherwise for me. It genuinely is something I look forward to every week. Wouldn't have it any other way. There's not been a single podcast where I haven't felt better after an hour and a half long chat with you guys. So, been a pleasure. And we will see you guys in a month or so.
Yep, I'm gonna miss talking to you guys, but I guess we will be talking. We are looking to grow the channel a lot, so we have a lot of plans we're looking to actually implement over the summer. So I guess while we won't be talking on the podcast, we will be talking regularly. We have a lot of new changes coming to the channel last year, both in our Discord, both on our Patreon, as well as the free content you're seeing, both in quality and quantity. So we are very excited to bring that to you guys next year.
Yep, and I echo all the feelings that you guys give. Like I always said, in the week when I have my decisions, when I have my paths, I come on this pod and it's all very clear. So I thank you guys for all the advice, for all the great memories we've created this season and before. And I also have a couple of other shout outs. I mean, Ella, if you want
I was just going to remind you.
Yeah, so I have a couple of other shout outs that I want to give. Look, we can't shout out everyone because there's so many supporters of the pod, but there's a couple of shout outs that I want to make because they're a little bit different. So first is my friend Andy Park or Sonaldo. As those of you know who know me, who followed my content creation journey, I started Burning Questions with Andy. And Andy is now stepping away from content creation. He's stepping away from Burning Questions. So I just wanted to shout him out that he's one of the guys that I started this whole journey with. And I wish him all the best. He's had a busy life and he wants to step away from content creation, but always be in my heart, man. Like it was absolutely amazing, the journey we took in Burning Questions. Couple of other shout outs. There's peers of ours that have stopped doing FPL content. So one is Always Cheating. So Josh and Brandon, they've been doing podcasting for 9 years in terms of FPL content. And they have been, the OG or one of the OG Monday morning commuter pods. And great friends, like, when you're listening to them, they were always like, two best friends just chatting. So shout them out. They just did their last episode 2 days ago. And finally to FPL Optimized, which is basically Sir Talp and Bass. So they have a podcast as well that they did for 3 years. And so they will be stopping that as well. So Sir Talp obviously has other things in mind. Solio Analytics, you'll hear of that name next year a lot more. But in terms of just the podcast, FPL Optimized was really, really good. So shout out to the three guys.
Fantastic, guys. As always, everyone, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate all the love and support you guys have sent us, and we are truly grateful. We will be back again very, very soon. And for the one last time,
That's a wrap for the 24-25 season. Have a good break, guys.
All right, take care.
See you guys. Bye bye.